Chapter 655. The sudden addition of more than 100 Primal Core experts to Zichen's side strengthened their resolve to join forces. The next step was to discuss the details of the alliance, such as how much Primal Core each family would contribute and when to launch the attack. This battle is a matter of life and death. I suggest that we use all of our Primal Core to fight to the death with Zichen, said Dan Yuan of the Tsang family. It was only natural that he would be despised for saying such a thing. Moreover, it was obvious that he was being selfish. Hence, no one agreed with him. If we don't use all of our strength in this battle, we won't be able to kill Zichen. When the time comes, there will be no end to our troubles, said Dan Yuan of the Li family. Using all of their Primal Core to kill Zichen was an unrealistic suggestion. Unlike the Tsang family and the Li family, they had yet to suffer a great loss. In other words, they still had a way to retreat. As though he had guessed their thoughts, Dan Yuan of the Li family said, "When you chose to stand against Zichen, you had no way to retreat. If Zichen doesn't die in this battle, Zichen will continue to recruit and expand from the fringe. When that time comes, you will regret your decision, just like the two of us." "That's right. We must use all of our strength in this battle." A cold voice suddenly sounded in the meeting hall. Then, a black figure suddenly appeared from the side. A dense killing intent surged from the figure, instilling fear in everyone's hearts. This was an assassin, a late Primal Core expert. They had no idea when he arrived or how long he had been there. This is the final battle. Either you die or I die. There is no need to leave yourself a way out. In this battle, we, the Assassin Pavilion, will send 30 assassins to assist you. "We must kill Zichen," said the assassin. There was an obvious chill in the air as soon as he finished speaking. "With the Assassin Pavilion's help, we will naturally mobilize all of our forces." "Let's call in the Qin family as well," suggested Dan Yuan of the Zhu family. The Qin family was naturally led by that traitor alchemist. "All right, we'll do our best to fight to the death. But before that, we need to take down Yongqi City to prevent them from joining forces with Zichen," said an expert from the Gung family. It was decided that they would do everything in their power to kill Zichen. Now, the only thing left was to deal with the minor details. One day is enough to gather the Dan essence. Tomorrow at this time, we will first attack Yongqi City. Finally, everyone finished their discussion. By the time everyone finished their discussion and gathered their core essences to attack, Zichen had already walked out of Yongqi City. After that, the Qin clan and the Lu clan in Yongqi City also took advantage of the night to leave Yongqi City and head to Yunxia City. On the second day, a group of Dan Origin Realm experts arrived with a murderous aura. They were determined to destroy Yongqi City. However, when he looked at Yongqi City again, there was only a group of dumbfounded cultivators. There wasn't even anyone flying in the air, nor was there any core essence. The city gates were wide open, and the Great City Barrier Array was in a deactivated state. "My lord, there's no one left in the Lu family." Soon, a Dan Yuan cultivator who rushed and came out to report. "What? No one?" "Yes, they're all gone, and they took everything with them." The Dan Yuan cultivator continued. "Damn it, they must have gone to Yunxia City. They were prepared for this. Fine, we'll kill our way over now." The Dan Origin Realm experts were furious. Moreover, the Lu and Qin clans had gone to meet up with Zichen, which made it more difficult for them to take down Yunxia City. Since they were prepared and chose to join forces, we should go back and have a good discussion. We must be careful in the final battle. The Dan Yuan cultivator from the Zhu clan suggested. "Yes, let's retreat first." The other Dan Origin Realm experts agreed. Therefore, under the shocked and horrified expressions of the cultivators in Yongqi City, the Dan Origin Realm experts turned around and retreated. There was no point in attacking an empty Yongqi City. As for destroying this place, it was even more unnecessary. When the news reached Zichen's ears, Zichen just sneered and said, "Just as I expected. Everyone has their own selfish motives. They didn't choose to attack Yunxia City immediately. This is their worst decision. After that, Zichun gathered the late-stage Dan Origin Realm experts of the other three forces. The three of them were all late-stage Dan Origin Realm experts, and each of them had a strong foundation. They were the strongest forces of their clans. Here are 2 bottles of liquefied yuan. You should be able to recover your energy with about 4 drops. Zichun first handed over 2 white jade bottles. Each bottle had about 20 drops of liquefied yuan. The 2 of them had naturally heard of liquefied yuan. They accepted it happily and thanked him. The next battle will be the final battle. The intensity of this battle will be beyond imagination. The 3 of you will have to fight at least 6 people of the same level. Therefore, when you fight with your life on the line, you must be careful. Here are 3 treasured pills. They can save your lives at a critical moment. Zichun said solemnly. Then he took out 3 jade bottles. This time it was a jasper bottle. There were 3 treasured pills in the bottles. These belonged to Wang Qiong, Wang Shan, and the others. Wang Qiong knew that the situation here was very serious, so he asked someone to bring them back. The 3 of them took the pills. There was no joy on their faces. Instead, they looked serious because Zichun had clearly told them that the next battle would require them to fight with their lives on the line. Zichun, don't worry. We will not hold back in this battle. We will definitely send out all the Dan Origin Realm experts of our clan. We will fight to the death. The Lu clan's Dan Origin Realm expert was the first to speak. This is a matter of life and death. We know what is important and what is not, the Qin clan expert said. As for the Wang clan's Dan Origin Realm expert, he didn't need to say anything. Zichun naturally knew how many experts there were in the Wang clan. The other forces are preparing. It will take 4 or 5 days before the attack. In these 5 days, try to let more Dan Origin Realm experts break through. For this final battle, I don't plan to let people defend Yunxia City to the death. We will take the initiative to fight. Fight? The 3 of them looked at Zichun in confusion. It seemed that defense was the way to go. Zichun nodded and said, "That's right. We will fight in the open space in front of Yunxia City. We must win this battle thoroughly and with a bang." The other forces hesitated for a few days. During these days, they carefully analyzed the battle strength of Zichun's group. From Zichun, Tyrant, Longhu, to the demonic ape, they analyzed all of them. The results of their analysis surprised them. The experts on the other side seemed to be on par with them. As for the remaining Dan Origin Realm experts, they didn't seem to have much more people than the other side. They didn't seem to have a big advantage in a head-on battle. Compared to us, they naturally don't have much of an advantage. However, with the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion, things are different. They are good at assassination, and they are the key to victory. Before the battle, the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion had already sent out accurate information that they would send out 30 Dan Origin Realm assassins. In addition, they would also send 2 late-stage Dan Origin Realm experts. In this way, their battle strength was clearly superior. As expected, they delayed for 4 or 5 days. During this time, Longhu also successfully returned with 20 Dan Origin Realm experts. After Longhu returned, Zichun gave the order, put the entire Yunxia City under martial law. From now on, no one is allowed to enter or leave. As if sensing the arrival of the final battle, many cultivators in Yunxia City left and went to other places. As for the remaining cultivators, they were all vassals of the Wang family. They chose to live and die with the Wang family. On the 6th day, the Dan Origin Realm experts of the other forces finally moved out and launched an attack on Yunxia City. Zichun had already appeared outside Yunxia City with his people. More than 200 Dan Origin Realm experts soared into the sky, emitting powerful auras. The leader was Zichun. His black robe fluttered without wind as he looked forward with a pair of cold eyes. On his left and right stood the monk and the demonic ape. Next to them were 3 late-stage Dan Origin Realm experts. They looked forward with a murderous aura. Soon, figures appeared on the horizon. The Dan Origin Realm experts of the opposing forces had finally arrived. The number of Dan Origin Realm experts on both sides was about the same, and the number of top experts was almost the same. Everyone must be careful when fighting. There are assassins lurking in the dark. Zichen's powerful spiritual sense spread out and covered all the Dan Origin Realm experts. When the Dan Origin Realm experts of the opposing forces arrived, they were very surprised to see Zichen appear in the sky with so many Dan Origin Realm experts. The 2 sides were still a few miles apart when they all stopped. Seeing that this distance was just enough for the Dan Origin Realm experts to self-detonate and escape, Zichen sneered. Obviously, they had seen through his self-detonation tactic. Zichen, today is the day you die. In the distance, the angry roar of the Tsang family's Dan Origin Realm expert came from the Tsang family. You can't kill me a few years ago, and you can't kill me now, Zichen replied with a cold smile. You were lucky in the past, but not today. We will crush you with our powerful battle strength, said the Li family's Dan Origin Realm expert, his voice full of hatred. You too have already become stray dogs, and you still dare to talk about your battle strength in front of me. Zichen's lips curled into a mocking smile. The 2 were furious. After losing their families, they had become generals without an army. It was inevitable that they would be looked down upon. Zichen, it's useless to say more. Let's see what else you can do without your self-detonation tactic. This time it was the Zhu family's Dan Origin Realm expert who spoke. Zichen sneered. You 2 are very calculating. You know that I'm good at self-detonation, so you hid from me. However, I don't plan to use it in today's battle, so your move is unnecessary. Haha, it's not that you don't plan to use it, but that you don't have a chance to. Laughter came from the other side. You don't need to be proud. I don't want to use self-detonation tactics. Today, I'll let you see what other tactics I, Zichen, have other than self-detonation, Zichen said coldly. Haha, then I wonder what other tactics you have. The other side laughed mockingly. Round self-detonation technique. Zichen's voice suddenly turned cold, and then he shouted, Do it! As soon as his voice fell, under the ground where the Dan Origin Realm experts were in the air, there was a rumbling sound. Amidst the flying dust, glowing figures rushed out from the ground. Chapter 656. 23 primordial Dan cultivators rushed out from the ground. They were 100 meters apart from each other, and then they formed a large circle. More than 200 primordial Dan cultivators from the opposing forces were right in the middle of this circle. This was the so-called circular self-explosion technique. Damn it, this is. Seeing the 23 people suddenly rushing out from the ground, the opposing primordial Dan cultivators were all dumbfounded and horrified. This was still a self-explosion technique, but it was even more advanced. Moreover, the self-explosion of 23 primordial Dan cultivators seemed to be too much. Disperse, run. A voice that was close to a roar resounded between heaven and earth. It was the order given by the late-stage primordial Dan cultivator of the Zhu family. However, if they were to disperse and run now, it would undoubtedly cause more people to die. In the current situation, they should surround and form a defense. Although there would still be deaths in this way, relatively speaking, there would be fewer deaths. However, in the current chaos, no one could think of this problem, and even if they could, they would not be able to execute it. This was because they came from many different forces and would not sacrifice their own lives to protect a stranger. Boom! A glowing primordial Dan cultivator directly exploded. A burst of destructive energy surged out from his body and then covered an area of 1,000 meters. The self-explosion of a primordial Dan cultivator covered an area of 1,000 meters. This was the conclusion that Zichen came to after directing the primordial Dan cultivators to self-explode again and again. Within this range of 1,000 meters, the energy contained in the middle 300 meters was undoubtedly the most terrifying. However, Zichen made the 23 primordial Dan cultivators stay 100 meters away from each other. In other words, after they self-exploded, the strongest destructive energy could still stack with each other, causing double or even multiple times the original destructive power. Moreover, because they were commanded to rush out of the ground at the same time, the self-explosion of the primordial Dan cultivators would not be more than a breath apart. This way, there would not be any signs of the primordial Dan cultivators being killed before they could self-explode. All of this was carefully calculated by Zichen. In addition to calculating the power of the primordial Dan cultivator's self-explosion, the most difficult part was the direction in which the opposing primordial Dan cultivator stopped. Zichen calculated correctly, and it could be said that he gambled correctly. They were indeed afraid of his self-explosion technique, so they could open up a distance. After the first explosion and the first primordial core self-destructed, another 22 explosions rang out in the world. The sounds that rang out almost simultaneously formed a shocking thunderclap. The destructive energy shattered the void, turning it into a huge black hole with a radius of several miles. All the Jindan essences of the enemies that came this time were instantly swallowed by the black hole. From afar, it looked like a huge beast had opened its mouth and swallowed these 200-odd core realm cultivators. When everyone saw this scene, other than the monk and a group of people who were familiar with Zichen, whose expressions did not change, the expressions of the other elixir realm cultivators all changed in an instant. They became shocked and astonished. Clearly, Zichen had once again demonstrated his power to them, directly making 23 elixir realm cultivators self-destruct. Of course, in the eyes of some powerhouses, they saw something different. That was Zichen's meticulous planning, which allowed the power of the self-detonation of the 23 core essences to be maximized. Will they still be alive? Mournful screams and vicious curses were constantly heard from the black hole. Looking at the incomplete corpses that fell from the black hole, as well as some core essences fragments, some of the core essences twitched and their eyelids twitched. The self-detonation of many core essences in a small area had already formed a superposition of energy. The destructive power it created was too terrifying. After the shock, the group of core essences exuded a strong fighting spirit. Clearly, Zichen's actions had already laid the foundation for their victory. The black hole was suddenly torn apart by a ray of sword light. Then the core essences of the Tsong family rushed out pathetically. With such destructive energy, even he appeared to be in a difficult position. Moreover, in that instant when he was surrounded by so much destructive energy, he actually felt the threat of death. Just as the core essences of the Tsong family rushed out, the other late-stage core essences also tore apart the black hole one after another and rushed out. They were standing at the front and were also directly hit by the destructive energy. The self-detonation of the core essences of more than 20 core essences was truly terrifying. However, they were still scattered and did not form a destructive force. Therefore, the few of them were only hit by the energy, but not killed. The 6 of them rushed out one after another. Their clothes were torn, and their figures were in a difficult position. For this battle, they had carefully studied it for 5 days. During this time, they had thought of various ways that Zichen could deal with it. For example, they could defend, or they could use the Great City Barrier Array to exhaust their energy. However, they had thought of various ways to deal with it. They had never expected that Zichen would actually use such a self-detonating core essences method. Moreover, he had clearly calculated the fear in their hearts and the direction in which he stopped in midair. Previously, because Zi Chen had directly rushed forward to self-detonate each time he self-detonated his core essences, they had completely overlooked the method of self-detonating from underground. The 6 of them had angry expressions, but they were also vexed. Clearly, they should have thought of Zi Chen's simple method long ago. However, they had been careless. This carelessness had caused them to suffer heavy losses, which would directly affect the outcome of this battle. However, fortunately, the group of assassins had not been hit by the self-detonating energy. There was still a possibility of winning this battle. The destructive energy in front of them was still surging. Zi Chen and his group did not immediately launch an attack. They were waiting for the energy to dissipate. The destructive energy lasted for a quarter of an hour before dissipating. Previously, there were more than 200 core essences on the opposing side. Currently, there were nearly 100 who were still able to fight. More than half of them had been killed. Using 23 ordinary core essences to trade for more than 100 core essences on the opposing side. In this first battle, Zi Chen's side had profited. It was a huge profit. However, what followed next was a real fierce battle. There were no more tactics or techniques to speak of. Everything depended on one's own combat strength. Kill. The core essences on Zi Chen's side had all spread out and were in attack mode. After Zi Chen's cold voice fell, they rushed forward to kill. The battle began instantly. However, as soon as the 2 sides started to fight, many figures appeared from the dark. These were all black-robed men. The moment they appeared, they launched a killing blow. Under the waves of crazy killing intent, the core essences were killed one after another and fell from the sky. As soon as the battle began, these assassins showed their strength. However, in this first sneak attack, they also lost 2 people. These 2 were killed by the spirit-devouring rat. Besides Zi Chen, except for the monk, the demon ape, and 3 late-stage core essences who did not move, the other core essences had all rushed forward. Even Long Hu went to kill the enemy. On the opposite side, the 6 late-stage core essences did not move. The other core essences also spread out and began to participate in the battle. The fierce battle broke out instantly. Core essences began to fall one after another. Some were from the opposing side, and some were from the same side. During this time, the assassins also appeared frequently to kill the core essences on Zi Chen's side. Moreover, in the chaotic battle, it was easier for the assassins to succeed. Puff! The spirit-devouring rat turned into a white light and wandered around the battlefield. It did not fight with the other core essences. It was only responsible for killing the assassins hidden in the dark. The chaotic battle had broken out, and the entire battlefield instantly opened up. Die. On the opposite side, the late-stage core essences who had not moved suddenly let out a cold shout and rushed forward with his foundation. At this time, Zi Chen's side also moved. Your opponent is me. The monk held the demon subduing pestle and blocked the core essences of the Li family. His opponent held a long blade with a foundation. The monk blocked his opponent because he was interested in his opponent's foundation. Meanwhile, Zi Chen held the thunder hammer and blocked the core essences of the Tsang family. As the lightning flashed, the mountain-sized thunder hammer fiercely collided with the core essences of the Tsang family. After that, the demon ape held the black stick and faced the core essences of the Chu family. The core essences of the Wang family were against the martial ancestors' core essences. The core essences of the Lu family were against the core essences of the Gung family. And the core essences of the Qin family were against the core essences of the Zhu family. Both sides seemed to have a foundation or something that was not weaker than a foundation. As soon as the fierce battle broke out, the sky here exploded. Everyone be careful. There are still super strong assassins hiding in the dark. In the fierce battle, the demon ape also transmitted a message to the others. Golden light flashed around Zi Chen, and a doppelganger appeared beside him. The doppelganger held a blood-red broken spear in its hand. As soon as it appeared, it turned into a golden light and rushed to the distant battlefield. The doppelganger was not useful in a battle of this level, but it was enough for a battle in the early stage of the core essences. This was the last battle, and it was a fierce battle from the beginning. No one intended to hold back. "Let me show you the power of your Lord Buddha." After a loud shout, the monk was the first to burst out. Golden light flashed around him, and two doppelganger appeared beside him. Two doppelganger and a monk. The three of them simultaneously injected the pure Buddhist power in their bodies into the demon subduing pestle. The next moment, the demon subduing pestle emitted a dazzling golden light, and a terrifying aura emerged. Boom! As the Buddhist power surged, the demon subduing pestle directly enlarged and then fell from the sky, hitting the core essences of the leaf family. The demon subduing pestle slammed into the core essences, and an ear-piercing metallic sound burst out. The core essences of the leaf family were hit hard, and the core essences in their hands almost flew out. Roar! After the monk, the demon ape who had been suppressed all this time also showed its power. He roared at the sky, and a bloody light flashed in his eyes. Endless black light lingered on the surface of his body. In the next moment, his originally tall and large body suddenly expanded crazily like a giant. A tyrannical aura surged around his body. The black rod, tightly gripped in his hand, also glowed in the next moment. The various mysterious runes on the surface of his body seemed to have come alive and actually began to squirm. After that, a terrifying aura emerged from the black staff. The giant demon ape held the staff and smashed it down. Boom! With a loud bang, the ice armor on the surface of the Chu family cultivator shattered. At the same time, his entire body flew backward under the force of the demon ape's smash. When his body stabilized, his face was full of shock, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 657. The assassin had been hiding for a long time. As soon as he appeared, he unleashed a killing blow. The cold light made people feel a chill in their hearts. As the murderous intent surged, the assassin's killing blow was already over. Puff! The sharp light instantly cut open the huge body of the devil ape. The assassin who had been attacking from behind had already flashed in front of the devil ape. Humph! This was a late-stage assassin with a strong foundation. After hitting the target, the assassin let out a cold snort. There was a touch of disdain in his sharp eyes. Behind him, the huge body of the devil ape collapsed and turned into pitch-black energy. It fell from the sky like heavy black clouds and spread in all directions. The huge demonic shadow turned into energy. This attack obviously missed. The assassin's expression froze. At this moment, the void beside him broke open. The huge figure of the devil ape strode out. A violent aura surged around him. He held a black rod that had grown to more than 10 meters long. The next moment, he smashed it toward the Danyuan assassin. Boom! The black rod hit the assassin's defense with a thunderous force. It caused a violent energy shock. Then, with the two of them as the center, the destructive energy began to spread. Under the powerful attack of the devil ape, the hidden assassin only managed to block for a moment before he was sent flying. There was still surprise and shock in the assassin's eyes. After flying back 100 meters, his figure merged into the void and disappeared. Delusion breaker eye. The red light in the devil ape's eyes grew brighter. It swept forward like rays of light, but there was no trace of the assassin. It looked around again. There was no trace of the assassin. The delusion breaker, I couldn't find the assassin. It wasn't that the assassin had disappeared. It was just that the gap between the two sides was too big. In addition, the assassin's concealment technique was too good. This made the delusion breaker eye unable to see through him. As soon as the assassin hid, the Zhu family Danyuan who had just been sent flying came forward with his foundation. He fought fiercely with the devil ape. In such a state, the devil ape's attack power became very strong. It suppressed the enemy who was a higher level than it, showing the power of the sky-splitting battle ape. But at the same time, the consumption of the devil ape in such a state was also terrifying. It was because of this that the Zhu family Danyuan dared to charge again with his foundation, even if it meant getting hurt. Is that so? On the other side, the monk who was fighting with the Li family's Danyuan could be said to have given it his all. He used the Luohan avatar and the 6 syllables of mantra. As soon as the Ma mantra was uttered, a strange and powerful force began to shake the opponent's soul, causing the Li clan's Dan essence to be impacted. Their minds were actually in a trance. Yes, Ma was the second word of the 6-syllable mantra, and the first word was the syllable of the mantra. The monk who had obtained the heritage in the ancient battlefield had also successfully comprehended the first word of the mantra. Now, with the 2 words of the mantra, not only did the Li family's Jinyuan fall into a trance, its already powerful combat strength was also greatly suppressed. Bang! Golden light flashed, and a large shadow fell. The demon's subduing pestle fell from the sky and hit the Li family's elixir core. This attack was full of power and could be considered the monk's strongest attack. After this attack, the 2 clones beside him clearly became much more illusory. The amount of energy consumed by such an attack was unimaginable, but the effects were also extremely powerful. Even though the Li family's Dan essence had neutralized most of the energy, he was still sent flying by this attack and coughed out blood. This was the first time a late-stage Dan essence expert with a strong foundation had been injured since the intense battle began. The other party's face was filled with shock. Clearly, he would have died from such a terrifying attack if not for his foundation. The one fighting Zichen was the Song family's Dan essence. The other party's foundation was a long sword that was extremely powerful. Every time he attacked, a sharp sword beam would flash with a terrifying killing aura. Once such an attack hit the body, even a perfect body would not be able to withstand it and would be instantly slashed apart. With the influx of extreme lightning elemental energy, the lightning hammer had already become the size of a mountain. Its surface flashed with a brilliant silver light, like thousands of lightning snakes dancing wildly. It was dazzling and blinding. Zichen's body emitted a resplendent golden light. The pale golden blood in his body circulated wildly, providing him with powerful physical strength. He held the hammer's handle with both hands. With a loud shout, he raised the mountain-sized hammer high and smashed it down amidst endless flashes of lightning. Such power caused the Song family's Dan essence's expression to change. The energy in his body surged into the foundation long sword in his hand. The next moment, the long sword erupted with a blinding light. It blocked in front of him with lightning speed, meeting the thousands of lightning snakes. Boom! The heavy hammer smashed down, causing the void to tremble. Thousands of lightning snakes rushed out from the heavy hammer, raging forward. A wave of energy also rushed out from the long sword. The energy between the 2 constantly collided and canceled each other out. Die. A cold light flashed in Zichen's eyes as he let out a loud shout. Extreme energy surged into the lightning hammer once again. With the influx of extreme energy, the lightning hammers might become even stronger, erupting with an even stronger energy fluctuation. Pum! Under this energy fluctuation, the Song family's Dan essence was also shocked as he was sent flying. Zichen and the other 2 had instantly suppressed 3 opponents. Such a scene made the other 3 feel ashamed. However, they were not in a hurry. They just needed to fight steadily and surely, because there were still assassins hiding in the dark. In the battle far away, Zichen's side had an obvious advantage in terms of numbers. In addition, the spirit-devouring rats were constantly attacking the assassins hiding in the dark, which greatly reduced the pressure on them. They could fight without worry. Therefore, the group of people who had the upper hand began to suppress them. During this time, the sound of Jindan essence exploding could be heard from time to time. Some Jindan essences knew that they would die without a doubt, so they would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. Of course, there were Jindan essences exploding from both sides. Under the attack of the spirit-devouring rats, the number of assassins from the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion was decreasing. Without these assassins who were good at assassination, they could already see the light of victory in the early Dan Essences battle. However, the key to victory was the late Dan Essences who were fighting with their foundation. The current battle was in a state of balance. Swoosh! Suddenly, monstrous killing intent rose again. The sharp sword light made the monk's hair stand. This time, the hidden assassin was obviously going to attack him. The sword light streaked across the sky like a lightning rainbow. The monk's two doppelgangers disappeared under this attack. As for the monk himself, he flashed to the side in an instant and dodged the fatal attack. The assassin's eyes were filled with surprise when his attack missed. His figure flashed, and he hit again. Roar! However, as soon as his figure disappeared, a deafening roar came from the sky. A beam of light flew to the place where the assassin had disappeared at a speed far faster than lightning. It was Long Hu. After he arrived, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He stomped fiercely toward the void. Boom! The void shattered with this stomp. Destructive energy spread in all directions. The Dan essences who had just hidden themselves appeared in the black hole. Their faces were filled with shock. Long Hu's first attack landed, and the second attack was ready. Just as the assassin appeared, a dragon's mouth opened wide, and the dragon's teeth in the dragon's mouth were as cold as divine weapons. The Dan essence's assassin's expression changed again and again. The sharp blade in his hand also slashed forward. Clang! However, when the blade hit Long Hu's teeth, a loud clang was heard. It did not break. What? Dan Essence's expression changed drastically. The shock on his face became more intense. Then he used the force from the dragon's teeth to retreat rapidly. Puff! The dragon's mouth pressed down in the next moment. Then there was a tearing sound. The Dan Essence's assassin's black clothes were torn apart. His chest was also covered in blood. The other party retreated again and again, the shock in his eyes becoming more and more intense. Cold sweat continuously appeared on his forehead. This mount named Long Hu had actually almost killed him just now. If he hadn't reacted in time, Long Hu would have bitten off his head. Long Hu was responsible for killing the early-stage Dan Essences. Everyone thought that Long Hu was weaker than the devil ape and the others. Plus, he did not have anything comparable to his foundation. Therefore, he could not fight against the late-stage Dan Essences. However, after he attacked in an instant and almost swallowed a hidden Dan Essences assassin, no one dared to underestimate Long Hu anymore. Seeing this, Zichen only sneered. Long Hu was the supreme beast, the king among the ancient beasts. How could such an existence be weak? Whoever dared to underestimate Long Hu in battle was courting death. Long Hu, behind you. Suddenly, the devil ape's voice sounded in Long Hu's mind. Long Hu's delusion breaker, I had finally found the trace of the second Dan Essence's assassin. Although he only saw a blurry shadow, it was enough to prove that the assassin had revealed himself. After Long Hu heard it, he did not turn around. His dragon tail shook in the void, crushing the void. He made a divine dragon tail whip. The void was directly shattered, and the second assassin was shaken out. The assassin's eyes were filled with shock. He had not attacked yet. Bang! Long Hu swept the assassin away with his dragon tail. Both sides were evenly matched. At this moment, Long Hu was restraining two assassins by himself. On the other side, the battle of the early-stage Dan Essences was about to come to an end. The faces of the experts of the opposing forces were already ashen. They realized that they had once again underestimated the strength of their opponents and the resources Zichen's side had. Since the beginning of the battle, The devil ape and the monk had been eating liquefied yuan as if they were eating jelly beans. They were not afraid of consumption at all. They were not afraid of consumption, but they were, after a series of fierce battles, even if they were in a defensive state, their consumption was endless. The scale of victory had begun to tilt, but it was towards Zi Chen's side. After the last blood-curdling screech, the Dan Yuan cultivators from the opposing forces had all been wiped out. In the sky, only the 8 late-stage Dan essences were left. Chapter 658. Although Longhu was very strong, he was not strong enough to kill 2 people who were stronger than him. He was only holding back the 2 assassins. During this period of time, Tyrant and Ziqin had also displayed their might and displayed their strongest battle prowess. They had beaten the Dantian realm experts of the Tsang and Li families to the point that they had no way to retaliate. The few late-stage primal core experts were furious because Zi Chen's reckless fighting style was bullying them. He was bullying them because they had no resources. Moreover, the 2 assassins chose the wrong targets. They should have killed the late-stage primal core experts of the Wang, Qin, and Lu families, not the demon ape who was at the peak of the Imperial Flight realm and Tyrant who was at the early stage. Although their realms were very low, their identities were extraordinary. One of them was the famous sky-rending battle ape of the foreign race. The old demon ape that came from his lineage once wielded a black staff and caused the ancient battlefield to tremble. As for the demon ape that obtained the inheritance of the sky-rending battle ape, he was naturally not a weakling when wielding the black staff. As for Tyrant, he knew 2 of the 6 syllables of the Sanskrit mantra. Furthermore, he had obtained quite a number of Buddhist superpowers. In addition to that, he had the devil-vanquishing pestle, which was the supreme treasure of Buddhism. He was often said to be the strongest among everyone. How could he be weak? It was already a miracle that a late inner core expert of the Li clan could survive in the hands of Tyrant. Of course, Longhu's sudden display of power was also out of everyone's expectations. This made Zi Chen's side gain another expert. It was expected to be an extremely difficult battle, but after the battle started, there were all kinds of twists and turns. It seemed that Zi Chen's side had the upper hand. They are actually so strong. In the distance, after the battle ended early, the surviving primal core experts did not rush to clean up the battlefield. Instead, they watched the fierce battle from afar. Their faces were filled with unconcealable shock and horror. Among them, Zi Chen, Longhu, and Demon Ape were able to block the attacks of the late-stage primal core experts. This was even more unbelievable. Everything in front of them was too illogical and illogical. In everyone's hearts, it was as if they had seen a damned ghost. How could a mere Imperial Flight be so strong? Boom! After swallowing Yuan liquefied origin energy for the nth time to recover the energy in his body, Zichen once again unleashed a peak attack that was not weaker than any of his previous attacks. The silver light in the sky was blinding as the lightning hammer fell down like a mountain, smashing into the Tsang family expert. Although the latter had used his foundation to block this attack, he had consumed a lot of energy and his resistance had weakened. He was directly shaken to the point of coughing up blood. The shock on Tsang family's Dan Yuan's face deepened. Then he took out many elixirs from his spirit ring and swallowed them. He swallowed a handful of pills, but the effect was not even 1,000th of a drop of essence liquid. Thousands of lightning bolts surged like thousands of dancing snakes. The lightning hammer once again wreaked havoc, causing a loud explosion. Facing such a powerful attack, the experts of the Tsang family could only continuously retreat, not daring to face it head-on. The battles in other places were not much different from the ones here. Most of them were suppressed. Pooh! The sword gleam flashed and blood splattered. Longhu, who was fiercely fighting 2 assassins, was suddenly stabbed in the body. The foundation attack shattered several scales on its body. After the scales were shattered, it also injured Longhu's body. fresh blood dripped from the wound, but it emitted a bright light. Each drop of fresh blood was like a dazzling shinchin. It was so bright that people could not open their eyes. Moreover, the dense spiritual energy contained in the dazzling blood was also shocking. This is the blood of an ancient beast. The few Dan Yuan from the land of chaos saw this scene, and their faces were filled with disbelief. The blood flowing from Longhu was the blood of an ancient beast. Didn't that mean that Longhu was an ancient beast? Longhu was an ancient beast. When they thought of this result, they fell into a state of shock. The foundation attack broke through Longhu's defense and injured him. Bright and dazzling blood fell to the ground. After falling, the colorful blood condensed and did not disperse like pearls. Such a strange scene made many people amazed. Roar! After being injured, Longhu entered a frenzied state. It roared like a dragon and a tiger, and a terrifying aura surged from its body. In the next moment, the scales on its body emitted a dazzling light. The supreme beast's aura that had been suppressed before also appeared at this moment. The overwhelming aura that made people feel oppressed also made everyone's expression change. Longhu exploded, and the supreme beast's aura appeared. At this moment, it was like a supreme beast that was the only one in the world. After showing its aura, its dragon eyes flashed as if it could see the assassins hidden in the dark. Boom! The tiger raised its claws, and the void directly shattered. Then, a figure in a sorry state appeared. It was the assassin who was previously hiding. However, at this moment, his face was full of shock after being blasted out by the attack. Pong! As if it was controlling the rules, Longhu's next attack landed on the assassin's chest like lightning, and the latter was directly sent flying. A line of blood streaked across the sky, and the late-stage Primal Core assassin was directly injured. Then Longhu attacked again. The tiger raised its claws, and the void shattered, and the assassin appeared in a sorry state. Then he was sent flying again, vomiting blood. Longhu, who had shown its might, had only attacked 4 times, and it had already injured 2 late-stage Primal Core assassins. Moreover, because Longhu's attack speed was too fast, even if the assassins had some tricks up their sleeves, they could not completely block this attack. At this point, the 8 late-stage Primal Core cultivators from the opposing forces were all suppressed, and several of them were injured. The battle had already reached this stage. How could they continue fighting? After looking at each other, everyone had the same thought. After communicating with their spiritual thoughts, they reached a consensus. Then they turned around and fled. This time, they had gathered all the Primal Core cultivators from their families to fight the final battle with Ziqin. The winner was the king, and the loser was the bandit. Their great defeat meant that the major forces had completely lost the battle with Ziqin. Naturally, the major forces would not be able to protect their families. However, as long as they were still alive, there was still a chance. Therefore, the 8 of them did not fight with the mentality that they would die. None of you can leave. All of you must die. Ziqin's cold expression became even colder as he looked at the 8 people who were running away. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a ray of golden light and chased after them with the thunder hammer. Kill! Then, earth-shattering battle cries rang out. The monk, the demonic ape, Longhu, and the 3 late-stage Primal Core cultivators also attacked with all their tricks. Amidst the earth-shattering battle cries, the group chased after them again. The other Primal Core cultivators looked at each other. Today's battle seemed a little too dreamy. However, they obviously could not participate in a battle of such a level. Therefore, after Ziqin and his group disappeared, they began to collect the spoils. They had won this battle, but they had also suffered many casualties. Of course, compared to the opposing forces, the losses were too small. During the chase, Ziqin repeatedly launched powerful attacks, shattering the void. Longhu, the demonic ape, and the monk also cooperated with each other to launch terrifying attacks. For a time, the void shattered and black holes appeared in the places where they passed. Such a powerful attack scared the primal core cultivators out of their wits. They ran even faster and faster. Along the way, there were already people who were seriously injured and had to burn their souls. After chasing for more than 1,000 miles, the distance between the two parties increased. The figures of the primal core cultivators finally disappeared from the range of spiritual thoughts. Zichen immediately stopped. At the same time, Longhu and the others also stopped in the air. "Are we still chasing?" the primal core cultivator of the Wang clan asked. "We won this battle. The major forces are no longer a threat. As for them, we will spare them for now," Zichen said calmly. "Then let's go back to the city," the primal core cultivator of the Wang clan said. Zichen nodded. After chasing for more than 1,000 miles, everyone turned back. When the cultivators saw Zichen and the others coming back, they cheered and jumped for joy. Everyone returned to the city. Zichen had a faint smile on his face as he gestured for everyone to return to the city. The battlefield had been cleaned up. Naturally, the harvest this time was great. All the primal core cultivators returned to the Wang family. In less than a moment, the news of the major forces' complete defeat spread throughout the Yunxia city. "Activate the city defense array." After returning to the Wang family, Zichen said indifferently, "If we activate the array now, we will win." The primal core cultivators of the Wang family were puzzled. Just because we won against the major forces doesn't mean we won against the assassin pavilion. In order to prevent assassins from sneaking in, it's better to activate the array. Besides, everyone is tired from today's battle. "It's better to rest and relax," Zichen said. Now, Zichen was the well-deserved boss. As long as he didn't say that he would destroy the Wang family and Yunxia city, the primal core cultivators of the Wang family would agree to anything. Even if he said that he wanted to marry Wang Xian, or now, they would immediately agree. Thus, the city defense array of the Yunxia city was activated. Seeing the energy shield rising, Zichen nodded and walked into the room prepared for him by the Wang family. Longhu and the others followed closely behind. "Don't let anyone else in." Before entering the hall, Zichen left a sentence. Wu Lu nodded and guarded the place with Haifeng. As for Wild Wolf, he was seriously injured in the battle. Just as he entered the hall, Zichen's body became unstable, and he staggered and fell to the ground. The tall devil ape beside him instantly shrunk to the size of a fist, and its originally shiny black fur had now lost its original luster. The monk's expression was no longer excited, and his spirit had become dispirited. After Longhu came in, he lay on the ground and closed his eyes. Although they had a lot of liquefied yuan, it didn't mean that they had endless combat power. Every time they attacked with all their strength, they would use up a lot of energy. This energy consumption was usually negligible, but after swallowing a lot of liquefied yuan, they would use up a lot of energy to launch a powerful attack every time. The accumulation of energy consumption was terrifying. If the enemy primal core cultivators didn't retreat early and continued to fight for a while, there would be a fundamental change in the battle. Chapter 659. Zichen and his group were the only ones in the hall. He didn't want others to know about the secret of consuming so much liquefied vitality. Before they improved their strength, this should be their only weakness. It was too dangerous. If not for Longhu, we would have been finished this time. The monk sat down with his back against a pillar carved with patterns. His withered face was filled with joy. Zichen got up slowly and sat down on the chair with the help of the table leg. Luck played a part in their victory. The fist-sized demonic ape had fallen into a deep sleep. Longhu had also consumed a lot of his energy. The last two attacks had taken a huge toll on him. It was indeed dangerous this time. Although there had been similar situations in the past, it wasn't as obvious as today. Besides, today's battle was much more intense than before. Everyone was under too much pressure, which was also the main reason for their mental exhaustion. Before they could rest, there was a quarrel outside the door. "Let me in." It was Wang Xian'er's voice. "I'm sorry, Miss Xian'. Lord Ziqin is discussing something inside." Wu Lu's voice was heard. Obviously, she had stopped Wang Xian'er. "You're lying. I want to go in." "Miss Xian', please don't make things difficult for me." Hearing the voices outside, Ziqin forced himself to be alert and said, "Wu Lu, let Xian'er in." Wang Xian'er walked in. After seeing the situation in the hall, her expression changed. She closed the door and walked toward Ziqin. "I knew something was wrong when the defender array was activated. Ziqin, what happened to you? Are you injured?" Wang Xian'er walked up quickly with a worried face. "I'm fine. I'm just a little weak. I'll be fine after some rest," Ziqin said softly. Then Wang Xian'er helped the monk up and sat beside Ziqin. She poured water for the two of them. In fact, they were only mentally exhausted. After resting for a while, the two of them recovered a little. Then they sat down cross-legged and circulated their cultivation techniques. This way, they could recover faster. On the second day, Ziqin and his group were full of energy. Ziqin called Wu Lu over and asked about the casualties in yesterday's battle. Wu Lu told him that, not counting the Jindan essences that had been detonated, the number of Jindan essences lost was close to 50. There were more than 200 primordial Dan experts. Losing 50 and killing 100 could be considered a huge profit. Then there were still more than 150 left, which was definitely a kind of super strong battle force. Furthermore, 150 primal core experts were more than enough to unify the entire barbarian land. Yesterday's battle was extraordinarily smooth, so the next step was naturally to discuss how to attack the major powers. When it was almost noon, the strongest members of the three families finally couldn't wait any longer. They came to Ziqin to ask when they would attack those forces. "Any time is fine, but everyone has more or less suffered injuries in this battle. It's better to postpone it for a few days," Ziqin said after thinking for a while. "All right then, we'll attack the other forces in a few days. However, I have to return to Danyang City first and completely reclaim that place," said the Qin clan cultivator. The loss of Danyang City was a great humiliation to the Qin clan. It was actually not an invasion, but a traitor in their own family. And that traitor was also killed by Long Hu on the spot in yesterday's fierce battle. It's best not to leave alone. The few primordial Dan experts who escaped are currently missing. If you leave rashly, you might be intercepted and killed, Ziqin reminded them. That's right. Those few have a strong foundation and are really a threat. If they keep guarding outside, they will kill every one of us who goes out. Then, we won't be able to do anything to them. The primordial Dan experts of the Qin clan sighed and decisively gave up on the idea of returning. The major powers were completely defeated in the battle with Ziqin. Other than the strongest members of the family who escaped, the rest of the primordial Dan experts were all killed. This news quickly spread to the various families, and the major powers who heard the news immediately felt that the world was dead. The families sent out so many primordial Dan experts, but they were all defeated. Then, only destruction awaited them. Moreover, the primordial Dan experts who escaped actually didn't return. Worried that Ziqin would attack with the primordial Dan experts, all the forces activated the Great City Barrier Array. In addition, they also activated the Clan Barrier Array to carry out a comprehensive defense. At the same time, they were also waiting for the experts of the family to return. However, they waited for several days, but Ziqin didn't bring anyone to kill them, nor did the experts of the family return. On the second day after the fierce battle, Ziqin left Yunxia City alone. 3 days later, Ziqin returned and announced that they could attack the major powers. "Can we attack now?" After hearing the news, the primordial Dan experts of the three forces were extremely excited. They were extremely excited, so naturally they didn't notice the little spirit-devouring mouse beside Zichen. In order to defeat the major powers, they had to break the Great City Barrier Array. So Zichen brought enough primordial Dan experts this time. He wanted to break the Great City Barrier Array in one round of attack. After more than 100 primordial Dan experts gathered, the first place they went was the fluttering Snow City's Chu clan. In the past, Zichen had killed many geniuses and monsters of the Chu clan. The Chu clan had left a deep impression on him because they said that the Chu clan's dignity was inviolable. However, after several years he returned again, but this time he brought the primordial Dan army to fluttering Snow City. After passing through the silent forest, they arrived at fluttering Snow City. This ancient city that had existed for 10,000 years had already activated the Great City Barrier Array. The deep blue light shield protected all the cultivators and buildings in the city. Zichen and the others appeared in the air, looking down at the light shield below. When the cultivators of the Chu clan in fluttering Snow City saw this scene, their expressions changed drastically. Their faces were full of fear, and their courage was almost broken. They had long known that Zichen was a sky realm expert, and that Zichen's potential was very high. He was an extremely terrifying existence. They had once thought that if Zichen didn't die, once he broke through to the primordial Dan realm, he would be like Wanderer Piao in the past, guarding the mountain gate of the major powers. If one came out, one would be killed. Therefore, they were afraid of Zichen's growth and thought of all ways to kill Zichen. This kind of imagination was already what they could imagine when Zichen was at his strongest. However, when Zichen really returned, not only did he have powerful battle strength, but he also brought with him an army of primordial Dan cultivators, and they killed their way to the outside of the city. This was something that they would never have imagined or dared to imagine in the past. In fluttering Snow City, when the cultivators of the Chu clan saw the densely packed primordial Dan cultivators in the air, they were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. As for the original dignity of the Chu clan that could not be violated, it was thrown out of the sky when the primordial Dan cultivators pressed down on the city. If begging for mercy now could save them from death and the danger of the city being breached, these people didn't mind immediately kneeling down and begging for mercy. However, they knew that it was unrealistic. The grudge between them and Zichen had long been irreconcilable. Boom! Thousands of lightning bolts fell from the sky, and like a heavy hammer as heavy as a mountain, they bombarded the light shield, causing a deafening explosion. The entire fluttering Snow City trembled under this deafening sound. Countless cultivators fell to the ground because of the shaking of the city. They all stared in horror at Zichen, who was like a demon god outside the light shield. After Zichen launched the first attack, the other primordial Dan cultivators also launched their attacks. The light of the primordial Dan weapons flashed in the sky. They were colorful and surged with a terrifying aura. As the primordial Dan weapons fell, it was as if the sky was filled with a rain of light. Every light rain was a primordial Dan weapon. The energy shield above fluttering Snow City suffered the strongest energy impact in history. In the loud sound, the light shield began to tremble and distort. After a round of attacks, the light shield trembled violently, and the degree of distortion was also very large. When the second round of attacks fell, small cracks appeared on the entire light shield. The appearance of cracks was a sign that the light shield could not hold on and was about to shatter. The cultivators of the Chu clan were ashen. They didn't expect that the great defensive array would only be able to withstand 2 rounds of attacks before it was about to collapse. When the third round of attacks fell, the cracks on the entire light shield continued to spread. Then there was a crisp cracking sound like cracks on glass. When it spread to a limit, it exploded with a boom. The light shield was broken. The cultivators of the Chu clan were filled with despair. Clearly, what awaited them next was death. After persisting for several days, They did not wait for the primordial Dan cultivators of the Chu clan. Instead, they waited for Zichen's primordial Dan army. When the light shield was broken, a group of people charged in. What followed was a massacre. Of course, they did not brutally kill everyone they saw. Instead, they killed the cultivators of the Chu clan. They killed all the way to the Chu clan. The defensive light shield above the Chu clan was still there. However, under the powerful bombardment of Zichen and his group, the light shield did not even hold on for a single round. When the protective array was broken, several cold lights shot out from it and rushed toward Zichen. Bang! 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 In the midst of loud sounds, the cold lights were all shot down. They were all elixir weapons, and the ones holding the weapons were naturally primordial Dan cultivators. There were 7 of them. The fact that the Chu clan still had 7 primordial Dan cultivators surprised Zichen. Then he sneered. He thought that there should be primordial Dan cultivators among the other forces. As expected, they were not united. Each of them still had their own schemes and treasures. These 7 people naturally could not escape the fate of being killed. However, before they died, several of them used all kinds of vicious curses on Zichen. If curses could kill, you people from the major forces would have died countless times. Zichen only smiled coldly at the curses. He stood in the air, allowing the massacre below to continue. Meanwhile, Tyrant led the others and went straight to the Chu clan's treasury. Compared to killing, Tyrant preferred to loot. In less than a day, the dignified Chu clan was trampled to the ground by 150 primordial Dan experts. Aside from the fact that all the experts of the clan were killed, even the wealth of the clan was completely looted. Other than that, the Chu clan's properties were also looted. The Chu clan was finished in a day. Zichen, who was standing in the air, was filled with emotions. A few years ago, he was just a little guy who fled and hid in order to survive. However, a few years later, he was standing in the sky above this area, standing at the peak. The entire area was under his feet and belonged to him. If this was in the past, Zichen would not even dare to imagine such a scene. Zichen, where are we going now? While he was lost in thought, Tyrant and the others had finished looting and flew up. Chapter 660. By the time Zichen's group left, the Chu clan had already turned into a sea of fire. Fiery snakes wreaked havoc, and scorching waves of fire swept across the area. Through this battle, Zichen had truly witnessed the ruthlessness and extermination of major powers. Not a single member of the Chu clan was spared. This included the cultivators of the Chu clan, as well as other people with the Chu clan's bloodline. Such a scene of extermination and elimination caused Zichen to frown slightly. He felt that there was no need to be so ruthless. After all, they already had the absolute advantage. Moreover, the Chu clan was clearly finished. Not to mention a few decades, they might not be able to rise again even after hundreds of years, or even thousands of years. Sir, this is the cruel struggle between major powers. Wu Lu saw the change in Zichen's expression and explained in a low voice. If Milord had not appeared, the ones who would have been defeated this time would have definitely been the 3 families. At that time, the result would have been the same. Leaving behind the bloodline is equivalent to sowing the seeds of hatred. These seeds may be insignificant in the beginning, but when they grow into towering trees and multiply into a dense forest, they will bear the consequences. Wu Lu's explanation was straightforward and easy to understand. Moreover, Zichen was not stupid, so he quickly understood. He could only sigh. As expected, only when their interests were threatened would the major powers be able to see the long term. Zichen's second target was the martial ancestor. The martial ancestor had a very special meaning to Zichen. The Nimbus martial ancestor he was previously in was a branch of the martial ancestor. Accurately speaking, Qin could also be considered as one of the martial ancestors' people. Unfortunately, in the end, the martial ancestor destroyed the Nimbus martial ancestor, and from that moment on, Qin began his life of running for his life. After killing the sect leader of the Nimbus martial ancestor, the revenge of the Nimbus martial ancestor could be considered to have been partially avenged. The next step would be to destroy the entire martial ancestor. Only then would he be able to take revenge for the Nimbus martial ancestor. On the way to the martial ancestor, Miao Kong's mood was very complicated. It could be said that he both respected and hated this sect. He respected it because his master, elders, and relatives were here. However, when he returned this time, he knew that his master and family were no longer there. The elders of this sect were all either dead or injured. The entire martial ancestor had already become the world of another sect. There was no place for him to stay. The only thing he remembered in his heart was hatred. The martial ancestor was only a faction, not a clan. Although on the surface, Qin's group had arrived at the martial ancestor, and there was nothing special about it compared to the original floating snow city, and the sect protecting formation was also activated. However, when the formation was broken, Qin's group saw a scene that left them dumbfounded. After the formation was broken, a gust of air filled with the thick smell of blood soared into the sky. Below them were originally neat buildings and pavilions, but now more than half had been destroyed. Dead cultivators could be seen everywhere on the ground. Moreover, when Qin's group broke the formation, there were still people fighting fiercely, and the sound of energy fluctuations constantly rang out. The sound of the formation being broken reached the ears of the two Dan Essence experts. The two of them raised their heads and glanced at Qin's group. Their expressions changed drastically, and then they lowered their heads to look at each other again. Their faces were filled with deep hatred and resentment. At this moment, the two of them actually ignored Qin's group. It was as if their hatred was so great that they did not fear death. Do you see that? Qin is killing his way here. You damned bastard. If you had let us leave earlier, we wouldn't have died here. Moreover, we would have been able to accumulate strength and take revenge for the martial ancestor in the future, roared one of the Dan Essence experts. His voice was filled with resentment. It's all your fault. If you hadn't caused trouble, we would have been able to control the sect protecting formation and hold on until the experts of the clan returned. It's all your fault for killing these people and letting Qin in. Furthermore, as a member of the martial ancestor's bloodline, we have to live and die with the martial ancestor in times of danger. You want to leave? Dream on, shouted the other Dan Essence expert. A trace of madness appeared on his face. Up in the sky, Qin's group listened quietly. Clearly, they had already figured out what had happened in just a few sentences. Live and die together? Bullshit. Don't think that I don't know what you've been doing behind my back. You, the Dan Essence expert's expression became hysterical. There was also madness on his face. However, before he could finish speaking, the body of the other Dan Essence expert exploded. He had actually chosen to self-destruct. The destructive energy instantly engulfed the first Dan Essence expert. Then, it spread out to a radius of 1,000 meters. Within 1,000 meters, all the buildings exploded and were reduced to nothingness by the destructive energy. In the sky, Qin's group watched all of this coldly. The martial ancestor, a late Dan Essence expert, had yet to return. After hearing the news of their great defeat, the martial ancestor was already in a state of chaos. Before they could attack, they had already begun to kill each other. Furthermore, no one was maintaining the sect protecting formation. Before the first round of attacks had even been completed, the formation had already been broken. As for the martial ancestor, it was all over. This is the difference between a sect and a family. In a family, there are direct descendants and bloodlines. Almost all the people in power are direct descendants. Therefore, when the entire family is in danger, these direct descendants and bloodlines will unite and form an iron plate to destroy the enemy together. Although there are direct descendants and various elders in the sect, there is no unified bloodline between the two sides. Without the strongest person to hold the fort, and with external enemies invading in a precarious situation, chaos is inevitable. Wu Lu's voice came from behind Ziqin. The most unfathomable thing in the world was human nature. People's thoughts and values were different, so naturally their thoughts were different. Therefore, at this moment, the martial ancestor was in a state of chaos. Some people stood for loyalty, while others chose to avoid the brunt of the attack. However, Wu Lu's words were not absolute. The direct descendants of a family were not necessarily united. There were also exceptions. This was not absolute, such as the Shangguan family and the Danyang Qin family. However, Wu Lu's words were absolutely reasonable. In most cases, the unity of the direct descendants was higher than that of others. Therefore, a family was more reliable than a sect. Come, follow me to the martial ancestors' treasure house. Whether it was a family or a sect, unity or rebellion, the monk did not care. After he called out, he took the lead and rushed down to the martial ancestor to find the treasure house. After that, the people on Ziqin's side followed the monk. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. On the other hand, the experts of the Wang, Qin, and Lu families led the other elixir essences to kill the martial ancestor and the others. Whistling sounds were constantly heard. Figures flew down and started a massacre. In the blink of an eye, the densely packed elixir essences in the sky became sparse. In the end, only 2 people were left. One was Ziqin, and the other was Wu Lu, who was standing behind him. As for Wang Xian, she knew that there was going to be a massacre. As she hated killing, she did not come at all. Why don't you go? Ziqin asked, but did not turn around. There are already so many people. It doesn't matter if I am one less. Moreover, even if I find something good, Lord Monk will not give it to me. As for the other useless things, he will still give them to me. Wu Lu smiled casually. Ziqin did not continue speaking. Wu Lu was also silent, looking at the messy martial ancestor in front of him. He suddenly thought of the heavenly barbarian pavilion that he had created. With him around, the heavenly barbarian pavilion was still very strong. However, what if there was a problem with his Aurus core formation? If there were no external enemies, perhaps the heavenly barbarian pavilion would not change. However, what if there were external enemies? His original intention was to let the barbarian pavilion rise and create a stable place for everyone to cultivate. However, it seemed that he was looking for trouble. Wu Lu could vaguely guess the troubles in Ziqin's heart. However, he did not know what to say, so he remained silent. At this moment, Ziqin was thinking about the main members of the heavenly barbarian pavilion. They were Tyrant, Wang Qiong, Wang Shan, Wu Mo, Devil Ape, Long Hu, and the most powerful Old Tortoise. Old Tortoise was the strongest fighting force in the heavenly barbarian pavilion. With him around, no one would dare to have any ideas about the heavenly barbarian pavilion. Moreover, he could not only intimidate the outside, but also the inside. Although he could not unite everyone, he could intimidate them. As for Wang Qiong, his fighting strength might be weaker than Tyrant, Devil Ape, and the rest. However, in terms of intelligence and analysis, the 2 of them combined could not compare to Wang Qiong. With him around, the heavenly barbarian pavilion would naturally have no worries. As for fighting strength, Devil Ape, Tyrant, and Long Hu, once they grew up, they could make the entire chaotic land tremble. Perhaps the entire barbarian land or even the entire Tianwu continent tremble. Therefore, with such fighting strength, it would not be a problem to protect the heavenly barbarian pavilion. With a suitable leader, experts with great potential, and the strongest expert in charge of intimidating, it seemed that the heavenly barbarian pavilion would be able to operate well without him. At the very least, it would be able to operate well for one generation and become an overlord force, standing tall in the chaotic land for thousands of years. After thinking through these problems, Zichen suddenly chuckled. He had been worrying too much. How could a mere martial ancestor compare to his heavenly barbarian pavilion? Furthermore, the heavenly barbarian pavilion still had a bunch of brothers who had gone through life and death with him. Even if there was a problem with his core formation and he was no longer in this world, the heavenly barbarian pavilion could still be established for one generation. As for a second generation, it seemed that he had been looking too far ahead. Behind Zichen, Wu Lu could clearly sense the change in Zichen's aura. The pressure from before had relaxed, and he seemed to be in a good mood. Wu Lu knew that Zichen had thought things through. Just as a smile appeared on Zichen's face, Monk shouted excitedly from below, "Found the treasure vault! Found the treasure vault! Quickly open it and take everything away." Then, with a loud bang, the treasure vault was blasted open. Monk took the lead and rushed in, followed by Devil Ape, Monk, and Spirit-devouring Rat at lightning speed. It seemed that they had followed Monk and slowly fell in love with the business of looting. The martial ancestor was destroyed. In one day, 2 great forces were destroyed. The barbarian land was in complete chaos. However, this was not the end. The chaos had just begun. Then Spirit Brilliant City was breached, and the Zhu family was destroyed. All the members of the Zhu family were killed, and the Zhu family turned into a sea of fire. The Dan Yangqin family was also successfully conquered. All the traders of the Qin family were killed, including all the members of the Qin family's bloodline. A few days later, news came that Letian City had been destroyed, and the Gung family had also been destroyed. Moreover, before the 3 factions could kill the Gung family's main bloodline, they were all killed by the other factions that were eyeing Letian City. At this point, other than the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion and the mysterious Radiant Moon Pavilion, all the opposing forces in the barbarian land were destroyed. Chapter 661. Under such circumstances, the savage land was unified by Zichen. This was another event that shook the savage land since the Wuji sect was destroyed 10,000 years ago. Zichen, this was a name that carried a sense of wonder from the moment he was born, bringing miracles to the world one after another. He had transformed from being hunted down, and along the way he had always been able to fight and kill opponents above his level. Today, the miracles he had created could almost be written into an epic that would be recorded in the savage land. After unifying this area, the group returned to Yunxia City. The entire city was celebrating. There was no doubt that the Wang family of Yunxia City would be the strongest force in the savage land. Cloud City would be the most popular city in the entire barbarian land, without a doubt. After a short period of excitement, the experts of the 3 forces regained their senses. Their faces were once again filled with worry. They were now worried about 2 things. The first was the whereabouts of the 8 late primal core experts. In the previous battle, they were only injured, but did not die. However, in the subsequent battle, they did not appear. Now that they had unified the savage land, there were still 8 powerful experts that had not been killed. Moreover, there was still the Killer Pavilion, a powerful force backed by the Killer Alliance. It did not seem like they had suffered a great loss. As for the second matter, it was more long-term. That was, where would Zichen go after unifying the land of savages? Would he return to the savage land and leave the savage land to the 3 forces? Or would Zichen establish his own force here and split it among the 4 forces? Or would Zichen rule alone? However, the matter of the Killer Pavilion had not been resolved. Naturally, they would not be so foolish as to bring this problem to the surface. Instead, they buried this problem in their hearts because they still needed to rely on Zichen's strength to suppress the Killer Pavilion. After the destruction of the few major forces, the rest of the smaller forces in the savage land were secretly celebrating because their chance to rise had come. Because the assassins of the Killer Pavilion had not been dealt with, the 3 forces only destroyed the other forces, but did not continue to attack the cities they were in. Therefore, in the cities that had not been conquered, the smaller forces had already started to fight for resources. My lord, the heavenly slaughter pavilion should be the only one left in the entire barbarian land. I wonder if my lord has thought of a plan to deal with them? Wu Lu had been following Zichen for a while now, and it was obvious that he had gained Zichen's trust. He no longer held back when he spoke, and his courage had grown a lot. It should be a fierce battle. Remind everyone to be careful when the time comes, Zichen said. Then, sir, have you thought about what to do after conquering this place? Wu Lu asked again. You're right. Zichen looked at Wu Lu. It seems like the three clans can't sit still any longer. The assassin pavilion hasn't been taken down yet, but they're already worried about this problem. Wu Lu said honestly. What do you think? Zichen asked. Wu Lu's lips curled into a disdainful smile. This barbarian land has neither resources nor legacies. It's such a big place, but it doesn't even have a single mineral vein. Compared to the Bedlam lands, the difference is like heaven and earth. The major forces in the Bedlam lands have not taken the initiative to attack the barbarian land in the past 10,000 years. They have not taken this place seriously, so there's nothing for us to miss here. Wu Lu continued. In this place that can be considered a wasteland, I'm afraid that only those who are born and raised here and have never been to the outside world would value this place so much. Wu Lu's meaning was clear. There were no resources here, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was thin. It would be very difficult for experts to come out. Moreover, when Zichen founded the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion, he had the intention of letting the barbarians go out and cultivate there. Compared to here, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Bedlam lands was denser, and there were more resources there. The possibility of barbarians rising there was also higher. Zichen smiled and did not say anything. The barbarian land had a special meaning to him. Besides being the pavilion master of the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion, he had another identity. He was the successor of the Wuji sect. Although Elder Amo had never asked for anything, Zichen knew that Elder Amo had always wanted to establish the Wuji sect. The Wuji sect's original base was in the barbarian land. Let's talk about this after we take down the killer pavilion. Zichen waved his hand, and Wu Lu left the room respectfully. In the living room, Zichen sighed softly. How could Zichen not know what the three forces were thinking? It was just that he was hesitating now. Zichen stayed in the room for 3 consecutive days and did not appear. Some of the 3 core experts could not wait any longer and took the initiative to look for him. Zichen, what's the situation with the killer pavilion? Are there any traces of them hiding? The moment he entered the room, the Wang family's core expert could not wait to ask. The other 2 also looked at Zichen. So far, we've already found 2 of them. However, it's clear that there should be other hiding places. Get everyone to prepare. Once we find the 3rd hiding place, we'll set off and annihilate the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion in one fell swoop, Zichen said. After destroying a few major forces, the spirit-devouring rat left to monitor the killer pavilion's base. He had not made a move for the past few days because he was waiting for the spirit-devouring rat to return. Once it brought news of the assassin's base, it would be the time for them to attack the killer pavilion. Soon, another 3 days passed. Zichen still did not appear in the room. On the 3rd night, the spirit-devouring rat returned. There is indeed a 3rd hiding place, and there is a core expert guarding it. The spirit-devouring rat reported to Zichen as soon as it returned. Its tone was solemn. They are all in the late core realm. Zichen frowned. The spirit-devouring rat's words meant that it was not an ordinary core expert. Yes, and the few guys who escaped earlier have also arrived at the killer pavilion. They should be recuperating now. I'm afraid of being discovered, so I didn't dare to investigate further, the spirit-devouring rat said. Chen nodded. The few of them did not appear. He guessed that they had gone to the assassin's base. Since they had found the place, it was time for the final battle. Wu Lu, go and inform the three forces to head to the killer pavilion in 3 days. Chen's voice rang out in Wu Lu's mind. Soon Wu Lu spread the news. Not long after, the three of them came to inquire. We found all 3 hiding places. When the time comes, we'll directly attack one of them. It just so happens that everyone is there, and we'll have a final battle of life and death. Chen paused for a moment and said, "Oh, right, you guys send someone to spread this news." "Why do we have to spread the news? Shouldn't we attack when they are unprepared?" The Lu family expert asked. "They have 3 hiding places. Once we split up, our battle power will be greatly reduced. Therefore, we have to spread the news and gather them for the final battle." Chen explained. Regarding this explanation, although the 3 of them had their reservations, Chen's previous commands had never been wrong, so they could only choose to trust him unconditionally. Before the sky brightened, the news of Chen bringing people to attack the killer pavilion had spread. Chen wants to attack the killer pavilion. Could it be that he knows where the killer pavilion is? Is this the final battle? Chen is finally going to fight the assassin. I wonder who will win this time. Very soon, the news spread throughout Yunxia City. Moreover, after the sun had risen, it quickly spread out as well. The assassins of the killer pavilion were spread all over the savage land. Other than the experts, there were also some ordinary intelligence personnel. They spread the news as fast as they could. He dares to attack us. He is simply courting death. This time, we will make sure that Chen will not be able to return. An angry voice came from the upper echelon of the killer pavilion. 3 days later, Chen gathered the Dan Yuan again. Looking at the 150 Dan Yuan experts, Chen said coldly, "Gather all the Dan Yuan experts." "Sir, our Dan Yuan experts are all here," Wu Lu said loudly. Chen's gaze swept past Wu Lu and landed on the 3 strongest Dan Yuan experts. He said solemnly, "In this battle, we will be facing the Killer Pavilion, which has the support of the Killer Alliance. Although it is only a small portion of the experts, we must be 120% alert and focus all our energy. This battle will be a battle of life and death. If we leave a way out, we will lose this battle." When the 3 Dan Yuan experts heard this, their expressions changed. Chen's lips curled into a mocking smile. "If we lose this battle, you should know the consequences." The faces of the 3 instantly turned ugly because they thought of the consequences if they failed to destroy the forces. This time, they did not hesitate and called for the other Dan Yuan experts. These were the Dan Yuan experts who had broken through to the Dan Yuan realm with the help of the Tribulation Avoidance Pill. There were more than 20 of them. Chen's gaze swept across the 180 Dan Yuan experts. He then said coldly, "The next battle will be a battle of life and death with the assassins of the Killer Pavilion. If we win, this area will be ours. If we lose, this area will belong to the Killer Pavilion." Chen's voice became even colder and louder. "As for the consequences of failure, you should know best. That is annihilation. You will not be unfamiliar with this, because you have done the same thing to the losers a few days ago. Therefore, in the next battle, think about what is behind you. In this battle, there is no tactical command. I only have one word to tell everyone: fight. If the enemy is too strong and you know that you will die without a doubt, I advise everyone to self-destruct and drag the enemy down with you. Because if you are killed by the enemy and you don't kill the enemy, it is very likely that the person who killed you will also kill your comrades, kill your companions, and finally come here to kill your blood relatives and wipe out the bloodline of your clan. Therefore, it is fine if you die in battle. However, if your death brings harm to your entire clan, you should be able to imagine how serious the consequences are." Chapter 662. After raising their morale, the next step was to distribute the liquefied yuan. Zichen gave each inner core cultivator a drop of mid-grade yuan, liquefied yuan. In a fierce battle with so many inner core cultivators, one drop was enough because no one would give them the chance to consume a second drop. If they couldn't kill the enemy after consuming the yuan liquefied, they wouldn't be far from death. Of course, it was best if they didn't die in battle, especially the inner core cultivators who came with Zichen from the Bedlam lands. Their duty wasn't to take down this place at the cost of their lives, but to return and guard the barbarian land. If everyone died here, Zichen would undoubtedly suffer a heavy loss. After careful consideration, Zichen had decided to give up on the barbarian land. Apart from not wanting to offend the three factions, the main reason was that he didn't have the energy to establish another faction. Therefore, when Zichen asked Wu Lu to distribute the yuan liquefied, he gave each inner core cultivator a special elixir. Although the elixir's effect couldn't be compared to that of a treasure pill, it was refined with the help of a treasure pill and the blood essence of an ancient beast that could restore vitality. It was equivalent to a treasure pill with a greatly reduced effect. If used properly, it could save lives at a critical moment. After the distribution of the yuan liquefied, everyone set off. This time, Zichen led the inner core cultivator straight to the encampment of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion with the most late-stage inner core cultivators. Seeing nearly 200 inner core cultivators flying over Yunxia City, many cultivators in the city cried out in alarm. Just as the group of people disappeared into the distance, the news of them leaving Yunxia City to attack the Heavenly Slayer Pavilion was also secretly spread. Compared to the Bedlam lands, the barbarian land was like a sesame seed on a round pancake. In the Bedlam lands, it was easily hundreds of thousands of miles, or even millions of miles. But here, the two factions were only separated by tens of thousands of miles. The news was quickly spread to the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion's encampment through secret means. Zichen is really bold. We haven't even found him for trouble yet, but he's already here with his people. When the late-stage primal core cultivators heard this, they sneered. Zichen had led all the primal core cultivators on the move. Furthermore, they were heading straight for their base. It was obvious that they knew where they were hiding. Our base has been exposed, and Zichen will be here soon. They haven't recovered from their injuries, and we can't stop Zichen with just the few of us. Should we call the others over? Another assassin asked. The last battle was due to our miscalculation. If we had held on for a while longer, Zichen and the others would have exhausted their mental strength to the limit. At that time, we would have died without a doubt. However, this is also good. Zichen obliterated these forces, which is equivalent to clearing out the savage land ahead of time. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the primal core cultivator. Go and call the others over. This time, we will kill Zichen in this battle. We will destroy his forces and unify the savage land. The assassin behind him shook his head. We thought that we could easily take over this place without spending a single soldier. We thought that we would be able to leave these forces behind and become targets for future assassins to train in this place. Who would have thought that Zichen would appear out of nowhere and completely mess up our plans? However, he's just unlucky. Such a powerful sky-level cultivator died before he could grow up. Humph! This is the place that the Heavenly Slaughter Alliance has set our eyes on. It's lacking in resources, so it can become a training ground for assassins. In this battle, Zichen will definitely die. Oh, right. Call only the late-stage primal core cultivators over. The rest of them will stay there. Only the late-stage primal core cultivators can decide the outcome of this battle. The assassin of the Heavenly Slaughter Alliance quickly went to report to the late-stage primal core cultivators of the other two camps. Clearly, the two sides are going to have a decisive battle in this battle. Either one of them would die. Moreover, Zichen had already set off. If he was fast enough, He could arrive here in half a day. Time waits for no one. The battle could break out at any time. Therefore, the people of the Heavenly Slaughter Alliance endured the pain and gave high-priced elixirs to those who were seriously injured. One of them, who had consumed a lot of his soul spirit, was even given a precious elixir. Clearly, for the final battle, they were going all out. Today we must kill Zichen. Then we will completely destroy the three forces. Leave no one alive. After the primal core cultivators of the big forces recovered from their injuries and found out about the final outcome of their forces, they were also extremely furious. Their bodies were also surging with crazy killing intent. The hatred of the extermination of their clans was absolutely irreconcilable. Moreover, after knowing that there was something fishy about the battle that day and that they could have turned the tables if they had held on for a little longer, they were even more furious. Die. This time, Zichen will definitely die. After knowing the secret of consuming a large amount of Yuan liquid, they were even more confident in killing Zichen. The distance from Yunxia City to the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion's encampment was only tens of thousands of miles. At top speed, they could reach it in half a day. However, the people who were already prepared waited for an entire day with murderous intent. But Zichen's group still hadn't arrived. Damn it! Why isn't he here yet? The group of experts was furious and sent people to investigate. After an hour, the news came back. After leaving Yunxia City, Zichen's group had only traveled tens of thousands of miles before stopping to rest. What is Zichen trying to do after traveling tens of thousands of miles? The people didn't understand. When the other two encampments' late primal core cultivators heard that Zichen had come to kill them, they also hurried over. Now, the number of late primal core cultivators on their side had exceeded 10, reaching 14. Of the 14 late primal core cultivators, 10 of them had strong foundations. Such a battle force could be said to be extremely terrifying. Once the two sides started fighting, Zichen's side would definitely lose. With such a powerful battle force, it was reasonable to say that they should rush up without any hesitation and use their foundations to kill Zichen's group. However, after the previous battle, they knew that Zichen was extremely crafty and cunning. Previously, he had said that he would fight to the death, but now he had only traveled tens of thousands of miles. There must be something fishy going on. Therefore, even if their battle force could completely suppress Zichen, they didn't dare to take the initiative to attack. A day passed quickly. The next morning, the group continued on their journey. This time, they still traveled tens of thousands of miles. After traveling for tens of thousands of miles, they stopped again under Zichen's signal. Although the primal core cultivators didn't know what was going on, no one dared to ask. As for the assassins of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion, they were completely confused by Zichen's method of traveling tens of thousands of miles every day. On the third day, Zichen still traveled tens of thousands of miles. Following this, they were only 2 days away from the encampment of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion. Traveling tens of thousands of miles every day, what is Zichen doing? It doesn't matter. There are still 20,000 miles left. The 14 of us will kill our way there and directly annihilate them. The group of experts became very angry. The feeling of waiting was very unpleasant. They were all clamoring to go and kill Zichen. Zichen is full of tricks. He might be baiting us by traveling tens of thousands of miles every day. He might have set up an ambush somewhere. We can't be fooled. Let's wait here and let Zichen deliver himself to us. In our territory, he won't be able to play any tricks. He can only fight us head-on, and that will only lead to death. The primal core cultivators calmed the agitated crowd. On the evening of the third day, the spirit-devouring rat that went to scout for information returned. It told Zichen that the other 2 late-stage primal core cultivators had already left to meet up with the others. Based on their current speed of 10,000 miles, They still had 2 days to reach the encampment of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion. Zi Chen's lips curled into a cold smile. Is everyone here? Then let them wait for 2 more days. 2 days later, Zi Chen finally arrived outside the encampment of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion. It was a forest with lush trees. There were even demonic beasts in the forest. It did not look like an assassin's encampment at all. Instead, it looked like an untouched ancient forest. This is the encampment of the Heavenly Slaughter Pavilion. The 3 primal core cultivators looked at the empty forest, their eyes filled with disbelief. It's one of the encampments, Zi Chen corrected them. Turning around, Zi Chen swept his gaze forward and said coldly, "Since you're already here, why hide?" Haha, it's indeed Zi Chen. You're in such a hurry to die. Wild laughter rang out between heaven and earth. Then, 6 figures rushed out from the dense forest below. These 6 people were the primal core cultivators of the 6 forces. They had already recovered from their injuries. When they appeared, they already had their trump cards. You've recovered from your injuries. Looking at the 6 people who were in peak condition, Zi Chen's pupils shrank. Haha, thanks to you, we just recovered yesterday. The primal core cultivator of the Tsang family sneered. As expected, Zi Chen's face turned ugly when he heard this. What? You knew you were going to die, so you left the other primal core cultivators behind. Only the few of you came to die. The primal core cultivator of the Li family sneered. According to the news, Zi Chen had brought close to 200 primal core cultivators here. Now, there were only 7 of them in front. They went to the other 2 encampments to fight. I think they've already taken care of them. Zi Chen's expression was obviously more resolute. As expected, our encampments were discovered by you. But so what? Even if we lost the other 2 encampments, as long as we kill you, they'll still die. A voice rang out from the darkness. Then an assassin appeared. 6 late-stage primal core cultivators and 1 more assassin. Zi Chen's eyes flashed slightly. Then he said, "Only 7 of you? It's useless. Last time, 8 of you were almost killed by us. If there are only 7 of you, then you're dead for sure." Bah! Zi Chen, what kind of trick are you playing? Don't think we don't know. Last time, you chased us so hurriedly because you swallowed a large amount of primal core liquid. You used up a lot of your spirit. If we had held on for a while longer, the 4 of you would not have been able to hold on. Hearing Zi Chen mention the battle last time, the primal core cultivators of the Zhu family became angry. After they finished speaking, they clearly saw the expressions of Zi Chen and the other 3 change. Then Zi Chen shouted, "Nonsense! We have endless battle power." Haha, endless battle power? Who do you think you're lying to? Seeing the change in the 4's expressions, a sinister laugh came from the other side. It was indeed so. Now that they were determined to win, the regret in their hearts rose to the extreme. So what? It's 7 against 7. The first ones to die should be you. Zi Chen once again gritted his teeth and said unwillingly, "Haha, 7 against 7. Open your dog eyes and look carefully. Look carefully. This is not 7 against 7. Amidst the sinister laughter, another figure appeared from the darkness. The number of late-stage primal core cultivators had increased to 8. Then, another figure appeared. Then a 9th and a 10th. Chapter 663. Have you seen clearly? Is it 7 against 7? Hideous laughter sounded from the opposite side again. Seeing the fear on the faces of Zi Chen and the rest, they were all pleased with themselves. You have so many people. Because of fear, the voice of the Wang clan's Dan Yuan had already begun to tremble. The expressions of the other 2 were not much different from the Wang clan's Dan Yuan. If it was 7 against 7, they still had a chance of winning. Even if it was 7 against 8, they would not lose. But now, it was 7 against 14. And looking at the 14 Danyuan experts on the other side, 10 of them actually had their own trump cards. What kind of concept was this? This meant that in the instant when the two sides fought, at least one Danyuan expert would be attacked by 3 trump cards and 4 late-stage Danyuan experts at the same time. Who could withstand such a powerful attack? Who could survive? The expressions of the 3 had already reached the extreme of fear. Their bodies were trembling involuntarily, but they still hoped that they would be lucky. They wanted to see if Zichen had predicted this scene and if there was a way to resolve it. But after turning their heads, the 3 of them were in complete despair. Zichen's face was also filled with fear, and the expressions of the monk and the rest were not much different from Zichen's. Obviously, the scene before them had already exceeded Zichen's expectations. Zichen had miscalculated. Why aren't you talking? The 14 Danyuan experts were full of mockery. As expected, Zichen was not prepared. Zichen's frightened face was ashen, and there was despair in his eyes. Come, tell us, how many is it? The mocking voice continued. Since victory was already in their hands, they were not in a hurry to kill. After all, miracles would not happen. Wouldn't it be better to let them live a little longer, be frightened a little longer, and let them be happy a little longer? Zichen's side was obviously frightened by the 14 Danyuan experts. No one spoke. Say something, are all of you mute? The one without hair, tell me, how many is it? The Li clan's Danyuan shouted at the monk. The monk had injured him that day. It's 7 against 10. The monk's voice also began to tremble. His hands trembled as he put his palms together and said in a trembling voice, Amitabha, the heavens have the virtue of cherishing life. I hope that benefactor will not kill. Haha, what did you say? Li family's Danyuan heard this and instantly laughed out loud. The other assassins also laughed non-stop. You told me not to kill? Haha, you damned monk. Why didn't you say that when you killed? Li clan's Danyuan laughed so hard that he couldn't even straighten his back. 7 against 10? You don't have any hair on your head. Don't tell me you don't even have a brain? Is this 10? Li family's Danyuan laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. The other Dan essence cultivators were also overjoyed. They thought to themselves that this monk was really a weirdo. He was about to die, but he actually told others not to kill. Furthermore, there were clearly 14 of them, but he said there were 10. This was indeed very funny. Zichen did not expect the monk to have such a unique performance. Hence, he could not help but laugh out loud. Io, you are still laughing. Song family's Danyuan saw Zichen laughing. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. He said, Zichen, your brain must be fine. Then tell me, how many is this? As the leader of a force, even in a situation where death was certain, he had to have the bearing of a leader. Hence, the fear on Zichen's face slowly dissipated, and he became calm. 7 against 14. However, the trembling tone of his voice also betrayed his calmness. Haha, 7 against 14. You really have good eyesight. You are indeed worthy of being their leader. Song family's Danyuan laughed sarcastically and then said, Then tell me, what are our chances of winning? 100%. Haha, since you know it is 100%, how do you want to die? Self-destructing your Danyuan? Oh, I almost forgot. You don't have Danyuan to self-destruct. Song family's Danyuan slapped his forehead and laughed. Can I not die? Zichen asked in a trembling voice. Such a stupid question naturally caused everyone to laugh again. Not die? Do you think it is possible? Our family has been destroyed by you. The advantage that has been passed down for tens of thousands of years is gone in one move. We have such a deep hatred for you. Do you think you can still live? Song family's Danyuan's voice gradually became cold, and there was obvious hatred and killing intent in his words. The family can be continued even if it is gone. Bullshit. Before Zichen could finish his words, He was interrupted by Song family's Dan Yuan loudly. Damn it, that is a family that has been passed down for tens of thousands of years. Do you think it is a game? You can continue it as you wish. You and me my ass. Let me tell you, today you will die without a doubt. Now, we are merciful and can give you a choice of death. Song family's Dan Yuan continued, and the others looked at Zi Chen mockingly. Boom! Suddenly a violent energy explosion came from the distant sky. Such a vibration was obviously Dan Yuan's self-detonation. Oh, it is Dan Yuan's self-detonation. It should be your subordinates, Dan Yuan. Self-detonation of Dan Yuan is Zi Chen's signature move. Why? Is it the Dan Yuan self-detonation technique this time, or the circular self-detonation technique? Song family's Dan Yuan's tone suddenly changed, and his expression became mocking. It is a misunderstanding, Zi Chen hurriedly explained. There is no misunderstanding. Today you will die. As for them, after I kill you, I will kill them. Then I will kill the 3 families and exterminate them. The family can be reproduced and reproduced. I will compensate with something. Zi Chen's voice was still trembling with fear. Reproduced? Reproduced? Damn it, do you think I am a beast? Song family's Dan Yuan was furious, and such a funny remark naturally caused a burst of laughter. Song family's Dan Yuan said again, compensation? What are you going to compensate with? Your life? No, my harvest. As soon as he finished speaking, Zi Chen's spiritual thoughts moved. A purple gold light flashed, and then a shining purple gold gourd appeared in his hand. This is my lifetime's harvest. I am willing to compensate with it, to resolve the unhappiness and misunderstanding between us. Zi Chen's words suddenly became clear. Seeing Zi Chen next to them, so cowardly, the 3 Dan Yuan simply closed their eyes. Out of sight, out of mind, Zi Chen suddenly took out the purple gold gourd, and the expressions of the Dan Yuan immediately changed. Although Zi Chen was now afraid, his previous cunning left a deep impression on them. So, at this moment, when they saw the purple gold gourd, they subconsciously became vigilant, in case there was a trick. What is that? Song family's Dan Yuan asked. The mocking expression on his face had disappeared. He was afraid that this was Zi Chen's final counterattack. This is a purple gold gourd. I found it in human butcher A.O. Baichuan's burial ground, Zi Chen said. In A.O. Baichuan's burial ground, there were 2 treasures and a purple gold gourd. They all knew about this afterward, and they also knew that the purple gold gourd contained Xingchen sand. The 6 experts of the local forces didn't think much of it, but when the assassins heard this, their expressions changed instantly. A.O. Baichuan was a genius, and he had an irreconcilable grudge with the Heavenly Assassins Union. Since it belonged to the other party, it was naturally extraordinary. So, this purple gold gourd was a trick. Just as they were considering whether to make a move, Zi Chen spoke again. This purple gold gourd used to contain Xingchen sand. This is a spatial container with a super strong sealing ability, but I have used up all the Xingchen sand. Now, it contains my harvest from the ancient battlefield. Damn it, what kind of harvest will not work? You want to settle this with a broken gourd? In your dreams, Song family's Dan Yuan scolded angrily. Harvest from the ancient battlefield, the assassins suddenly said. These 6 people of the local forces naturally didn't know what the ancient battlefield represented, but they knew very well that there were a lot of resources there, and the most famous ones were the ancient beasts. This time, the Heavenly Assassins Union had sent people into the ancient battlefield, but they had been completely annihilated without any harvest. So, after hearing about the harvest in Zi Chen's gourd, they hesitated and were a little tempted. Of course, they didn't let their guard down. Yes, some ancient beast essence blood of the descendants of the pure-blooded ancient beasts, as well as some king-level ancient beasts essence, blood, and materials. I came back this time to find someone to refine these essence blood into elixir pills and materials into elixir weapons, Zichen, who wanted to live, said sincerely. Then Zichen was about to throw the purple gold gourd over, but the assassin's expressions changed. They were on alert and had the intention to retreat. After seeing this, Zichen's expression didn't change. He opened the gourd with one hand and tilted it. A psychedelic light sprinkled out, and then drops of ancient beast essence, blood, flowed out like pearls from the gourd's mouth. Zichen poured out the essence blood of a king-level ancient beast. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a dazzling light that made people unable to open their eyes. Moreover, it emitted a familiar majesty and dense spiritual energy. This is indeed the essence blood of an ancient beast, and its quality is very high. The assassin's eyes widened. Such essence blood was very useful for their cultivation. This is the blood essence of a king ancient beast. When I entered the depths, I happened to find 2 king ancient beasts fighting. In the end, both of them were severely injured and died. I was lucky enough to obtain this blood essence. Zichen seemed to have seen the hope of survival and tried his best to explain. How much essence blood is left in it? The assassin asked, but his voice was obviously not calm. Not much. I used some, but there are still a few hundred drops left, Zichen said. There are still a few hundred drops left. The assassin's eyes widened again. One of them said, "Throw the gourd over." Then, "Sir, you have to let us go," Zichen didn't forget to say. "Cut the crap and throw it over," the assassin continued to shout. "Oh." Zichen nodded and was about to throw the purple gold gourd over. "Wait." Suddenly the assassin shouted. Zichen was stunned. "Put in the essence blood in your hand and throw it over. Hurry up." The assassin's voice sounded impatient. Zichen was relieved. He quickly poured the essence blood in and closed the gourd's lid. Then he threw the gourd over. Chapter 664. Humph! The assassin held the purple gold gourd and sneered at Zichen. Then he turned around and said, "This kid is full of tricks, just in case you guys step back." The others nodded and quickly stepped back. They had pretended to be arrogant and teasing, but they had never let down their guard. This is a space gourd. It contains essence blood. How could it be a trick? Zichen smiled with a cowardly look. "How do you use it?" the black-robed man asked coldly, glancing at Zichen. "Unplug the gourd and pour out," Zichen explained. Bang! The gourd lid opened with a bang. The crisp sound startled everyone. The other Elixir Realm masters stepped back again, their expressions changing slightly. The mouth of the gourd emitted an illusory light. It was extremely beautiful, but no unexpected danger occurred. The group felt awkward and stepped forward. "There will be hundreds of drops of ancient beast essence blood and ancient beast materials in this small gourd." The assassin held the purple gold gourd and shook it in his hand. He had never let down his guard. The energy in abdomen was on standby at any time. He held the foundation in his hand and would attack at the slightest movement. But no matter how he shook it, the purple gold gourd did not move. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion came from afar, startling everyone again. The foundation in the assassin's hand began to glow. His other hand shook, and the purple gold gourd almost fell. But it was a false alarm. This was the sound of Elixir Realm masters exploding. It should be the battle in the other 2 stations that had reached its climax. The Elixir Realm assassin glanced at Zichen coldly again. The gourd lid had been opened, but there was no movement inside for a long time. There was no change, so the Elixir Realm assassin could not be faked. He gathered his courage and put his eyes close to the mouth of the gourd, wanting to see what was inside. The interior of the purple gold gourd seemed to be a magical space. Except for an illusory light, nothing could be seen. But vaguely, The assassins seemed to be able to feel that in the depths of the illusory light, there was a large amount of colorful light that was about to rush out. It should be the essence, blood, of ancient beasts. Turn the gourd over and pour the blood essence out, Zichen suggested. The killer glanced coldly at Zichen. His expression was cold, but he was overjoyed. He didn't expect to have such a big harvest today. As for Zichen, he naturally wouldn't let him go. Retracting his cold gaze, the killer lowered his head again and looked at the purple gold gourd in his hand. Out of caution, he didn't immediately listen to Zichen's instructions. Instead, he played with the gourd for a while before turning it over and emptying it into his palm. Hallucinatory light spilled out from the mouth of the gourd. Drops of pearl-like essence, blood, appeared from the hallucinatory light and then fell into the palms of the Dan Yuan assassins. They condensed and did not scatter. During this period, the sound of Dan Yuan self-detonating would occasionally ring out. Everyone had already gotten used to it and was no longer startled. Their gazes were all fixed on the purple gold gourd. As expected, looking at the colorful essence, blood in his hand, the surprise in the eyes of the Dan Yuan assassin became even stronger. The joy in his heart couldn't help but show on his face. Now the ancient beast essence, blood in his hand, was divided into two types. One type was extremely tempting to him, and the other type was useful to him in large quantities. These were the two types of ancient beast essence blood that Zichen had mentioned. After seeing that nothing strange had happened for a long time, the others were also relieved. After seeing the killer pour out the ancient beast essence blood, they couldn't help but fly over. When they arrived in front of the group of killers, they all looked curiously at the condensed ancient beast essence, blood in the hands of the killers. The Dan Yuan assassins were also like curious babies. They poured out the ancient beast essence, blood in their hands, to the others. Not satisfied with the few drops of essence, blood in the hands of the killers, one of them suggested, "Pour it out again. Let's see how much is left inside." Therefore, the others also stretched out their hands. The Dan Yuan assassins also took out the gourd and began to pour it into their hands. Of course, they didn't let down their guard. Their spiritual senses were firmly locked onto Zichen and the others. As long as they made any strange movements, they would definitely kill them. Zichen kept a smile on his face. Then he watched them pour out their essence, blood drop by drop. Although his expression didn't change, his heart was bleeding. When he felt that they had poured enough essence blood, Zichen quickly sent out a thought in his sea of consciousness. The psychedelic light from the mouth of the purple gold gourd poured out again. However, this time it didn't pour out any essence blood. Instead, it poured out a silver light. Everyone thought that it was still silver essence blood, so they reached out their hands to catch it. When the silver light fell into their hands, everyone realized that it wasn't essence blood. Instead, it was a small silver snake that was slightly larger than essence blood. The silver light flickered and twisted. "What is this?" Looking at the small silver snake in the palm of their hands, everyone was very surprised. This thing didn't look like essence blood. It looked more like a living thing, twisting and twisting. Moreover, it seemed to contain an inexplicable energy. At this time, their confusion and curiosity completely suppressed their vigilance. So they didn't notice that the psychedelic light from the gourd didn't dissipate like before. Instead, it continued to envelop the small silver snake. This is something I accidentally discovered. It contains an inexplicable power. Its effect seems to be even better than essence blood. Zichen smiled and prepared to explain its effect. Everyone's attention was focused on Zichen. They didn't notice that more and more silver snakes were pouring out of the gourd. Furthermore, under the psychedelic light, some of them were already floating in the air. Of course, even if they did notice, they wouldn't care. They would only be more curious. That was because these silver snakes were like miniature lightning bolts. They were constantly twisting and turning, but they seemed to be sealed and unable to charge out. This is something I brought out from the 8th layer of the lightning dominion. Its effect is extremely powerful. It's very suitable for you. Zi-Chin continued to smile as he explained. His gentle voice contained a hint of flattery. The 8th layer of the lightning dominion is extremely powerful. It's very suitable for us. Several assassins were puzzled. They clearly felt that this place was very familiar, and after hearing that it was very suitable for them, their eyes began to shine. The 8th layer of the lightning dominion. Hearing Zi-Chen's words, the 3 core nascent soul masters that hadn't wanted to look directly at Zi-Chen opened their eyes. As a local power, they naturally knew what sort of place the lightning dominion was. As for the 8th layer of the lightning dominion, even they didn't dare to rashly enter. That was because they would be smashed to pieces by the lightning there. Not good. As the 3 of them reacted, the other 6 also instantly recalled what sort of place the Thunder Dominion's 8th level was. Their complexions changed, thinking that they had been tricked. When they looked down at the lightning snakes again, their faces were filled with panic and fear. This change in expression was the same as when Zi-Chen's group had seen more and more of them. Thus, in their panic, they threw away the blood essence and lightning snakes in their hands and turned to flee. But under Zi-Chen's meticulous planning and deliberate performance, how could they run away? He had already used his mind to control the purple gold gourd in an instant. Then, the psychedelic light that enveloped the silver snake also disappeared after his words. Without the suppression of the psychedelic light, the silver snake also returned to its original appearance. It instantly transformed from a snake into a dragon, transforming into a terrifying silver dragon. And its body, which was originally only a little bigger than the blood essence, instantly grew to hundreds of meters in size. The silver enlarged into a silver light that flashed with a dazzling silver light. Then it twisted and enveloped the group of 14. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact it all happened in a flash. When Zi-Chen's mind controlled the psychedelic light to dissipate, he also shouted, "Retreat!" The tyrant, the demonic ape, and Longhu were already aware of Zi-Chen's plan. Thus they quickly withdrew from the scene. However, the other 3 were startled, and when they recovered from the shock, their speed was slightly slower. It was because of this delay that the silver dragon's lightning aura spread and crazily swept over. There was no explosion of lightning between heaven and earth, but the void was shattered when the lightning power surged. Then it spread silently. In an instant, it had spread for thousands of meters, and then thousands of meters again. In the end, within a radius of 10,000 miles, it had turned into a huge black hole in an instant. Because the 3 Dan Yuan experts were slower, they were instantly swallowed by the black hole. When they rushed out under the protection of the light, their bodies were already charred black. They had been severely injured by the lightning, and their battle strength had decreased by at least 30%. As for the Dan Yuan expert of the Qin family, because his reaction was slower, his escape speed was slower, and he had suffered a fatal destructive attack. His battle strength had decreased by more than 80%, and he was also severely injured, with less than 20% of his battle strength and his life in danger. He did not hesitate to swallow the elixir given by Zi-Chen. As expected, when his life was in danger, he became decisive. When the elixir entered his stomach, it turned into a strong breath of life and began to repair his severely injured body from the inside out through his meridians. In the eyes of the other 2, there was obvious fear. If they had reacted a moment later, and Zi-Chen had not decisively sent out his thoughts, they would have died under the destructive lightning. Therefore, the 2 turned their heads and looked at Zi-Chen with blame in their eyes. At this moment, they found that Zi-Chen, who had been smiling for survival, suddenly had a cold expression on his face. The chill that emerged from his body made their hearts tremble. Many bolts of lightning exploded, but there was no explosion in heaven and earth. Everything happened silently. Just by looking at the void that had not been repaired to its limit, one could tell how terrifying the power of the lightning was. "This is too strong. Zi-Chen, How many bolts of lightning did you release in one go? Seeing that the broken void had not been repaired for a long time and had been in the state of a black hole, Monk also clicked his tongue and asked. Zichen shook his head, his cold eyes staring straight ahead. He said, I don't know the exact number, but in order to kill with one blow, I used all the lightning in one space. I think there should be more than 10 bolts. More than 10 bolts. Monk's eyes were wide open. One bolt of lightning was already terrifying. If more than 10 bolts of lightning exploded at the same time, the power would not be weak. Now he seriously doubted whether these assassins were still alive, and there was obvious worry on his face because he was seriously worried that the foundation would be destroyed by the lightning. Chapter 665. This is too terrifying. Zichen, you really entered the 8th level of the Lightning Dominion. The 3 primordial core realm cultivators were shocked. After swallowing the treasure pill, the primordial core realm cultivator of the Qin family had recovered from his injuries. However, when he personally experienced the terror of the lightning, his expression was even more shocked than the other 2. No, I barely entered the 7th level and collected the lightning of the 8th level from afar. However, it took me 3 days and I almost died, Zichen explained. When did you go? The 3 of them asked in confusion because they did not remember Zichen leaving Yunxia City. After a few factions were defeated last time, before we went to destroy those family clans. Otherwise, they would still be alive. How would I have the confidence to attack their headquarters? Zichen sneered. When the 3 of them heard this, the shock on their faces did not fade. Moreover, amid the shock, there was a deep sense of fear and reverence. As a heaven realm cultivator, Zichen's strength was indeed terrifying. However, they now realized that Zichen's wisdom was more awe-inspiring than his strength. Clearly, Zichen already had a way to kill a late-stage primordial core realm cultivator, but he did not kill them. Every time, he allowed them to escape successfully. The purpose of letting them escape every time was to gather at the end and catch them all in one fell swoop. If he used lightning to kill one person, the others would naturally be shocked. Then, the following battle would naturally not be easy to fight. Perhaps it would be the same as before, becoming an endless battle. Cheer up. It's time to fight. The essence energy around Monk and the others had already begun to surge. They were all prepared for battle. However, seeing that the 3 people beside him did not react, Zichen reminded them. Fight? Are they not dead yet? The 3 of them were puzzled and shocked. How could such lightning not kill a late-stage primordial core realm cultivator? If they didn't have a foundation, they would definitely die. However, now that they have a foundation, the possibility of them surviving is very high. With that said, Zichen ignored the 3 of them. He released a suppressive force around him that flashed with resplendent golden light. His perfect body had already been revealed. He held the lightning hammer in his hand and emitted a terrifying aura. Silver light flashed on his back as heavenly lightning wings appeared. In an instant, Zichen displayed his best combat stance. Time flew by. The black hole with a radius of 10,000 miles was shrinking. The destroyed void was mending itself, and the violent lightning energy was dissipating. They stared at the center of the violent lightning, ready to attack at any time. The thunder and lightning in the sky quickly dissipated, and the void also healed at the moment the thunder and lightning dissipated. Zichen and the others narrowed their eyes in an instant. Sure enough, they had kept their lives. The original 14 late-stage primal core experts were only able to kill 4 of them without any foundation under such destructive lightning. As for the other 10, they were all still alive. With their foundation, they didn't die, but their injuries were very serious. They were even more serious than the primal core experts of the Qin family. With their severely injured bodies, they couldn't even unleash 20% of their combat strength. In such a situation, they would definitely die. The 6 strongest primal core experts of the local forces were ashen. As for the other 4 primal core assassins, after the lightning energy disappeared, they quickly took out something from their spiritual rings and swallowed it instantly. The thing they took out was naturally a treasure pill. Now only a treasure pill could save their lives and give them a chance to turn the tables. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Just as the thunder and lightning dissipated and the treasure pills entered their mouths, Zichen, Longhu, Tyrant, and Devil Ape had already turned into 4 rays of light and rushed forward. Zichen, Longhu, and Devil Ape waved their foundation and attacked the 4 people with a terrifying aura. Longhu, on the other hand, displayed his strongest form as a supreme beast. He stretched out his tiger claws and slapped one of the primal core assassins. Pum, 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 pum. The 4 people's attacks landed almost at the same time, for loud bangs sounded almost at the same time. With such great strength, the 4 assassins who were holding their foundation were directly sent flying. The treasure pills melted as soon as they entered their mouths. Therefore, even if Zichen and the other 2 launched their attacks at the first moment, they couldn't stop the assassins from swallowing the treasure pills. Suddenly, Tyrant's pupils shrank. He saw a treasure pill emitting rich vitality falling from the sky. Then he looked at the primal core assassin who was facing the treasure pill. His face was filled with despair. Seeing this, Tyrant smiled. He secretly sighed at Longhu's terrifying combat strength. He actually managed to force the treasure pill out of the assassin's mouth. Moreover, the treasure pill that melted as soon as it entered his mouth didn't even have time to melt. It could be seen that Longhu's attack was swift and powerful. It's his bad luck to be targeted by Longhu. Seeing Longhu rushing towards the treasure pill, Tyrant gloated. The assassin's only treasure pill was lost. He was not far from death. Other than the unlucky assassin, the other 3 were lucky. They successfully swallowed the treasure pills. As the melted treasure pills entered their stomachs, the rich vitality rapidly healed their injured bodies. However, due to the severity of their injuries, even the treasure pills that had always been successful couldn't heal their injuries in an instant. It would take at least half an hour or even longer for their injured bodies to recover to their peak state. And in such a long time, it was enough for Zichen and the other 2 to beat them up. The 3 of them were like 3 streams of light. They were gold, black, gold, and silver. They rushed towards the other 3 assassins again and smashed down with their foundation. Bang! The Devil Ape turned into a giant again. The pitch-black club in its hand also emitted a dark light. The runes on the club lit up one by one. It hit the foundation of a primal core assassin. A loud bang was instantly heard. Then a powerful energy surged. This energy passed through the foundation and directly sent the assassin flying. As the assassin flew back, his internal organs churned. He then coughed up blood. This blood contained rich vitality. It was obvious that he had coughed up 1/3 of the effect of a treasure pill. A monk and 2 doppelgangers used the 6-syllable Sanskrit while controlling the demon, subduing Pestle together. The golden demon, subduing Pestle, smashed down like a giant mountain. This smash was so powerful that it seemed to shake the heavens and earth. The primal core assassin's injuries were already slow to recover. Under this smash, his recovery was incomparably slow. At the same time, Zichen's attack also carried the power of thousands of thunderbolts. These thunderbolts danced and wreaked havoc like thunder snakes. The assassin, who had just recovered a little with the help of the treasure pill's primal core, was also heavily injured by Zichen's attack. It was as if he hadn't recovered at all. The assassin, who had his treasure pill smashed out of his mouth, was full of despair facing the powerful Longhu. He didn't swallow any primal core, so his despair was understandable. However, the other 3 who had swallowed the treasure pills were also full of despair. Even if they knew that Zichen and the other 2 weren't really strong and had a fatal weakness after swallowing primal core, could they hold on until then? Naturally, they couldn't. After Longhu's two powerful attacks, the powerful energy wave pierced through their foundation and killed the primal core assassin. After a loud sound, the primal core assassin fell from the sky with his foundation. His vitality was gone. Seeing this scene, the 6 leaders of the local forces were already in despair. When they saw the purple gold gourd on the ground, the regret in their hearts reached an extreme. However, it was useless to regret. Time couldn't be turned back. Wang, Qin, and Lu, the 3 primal core cultivators, also rushed over with their foundation after recovering from their shock. They were heavily injured and had less than 20% of their full strength. How could they block the 3, who were almost at their peak strength? Such a battle would definitely lead to death. However, since they were going to die, they might as well die with a bang. Therefore, they gritted their teeth and made up their minds. The 6 primal core cultivators began to glow at the same time. Then, a terrifying and violent aura surged. Not good. They are going to self-destruct. Sensing this aura, the 3 primal core cultivators' faces changed drastically. After stopping for a moment, they turned around and began to flee frantically. "Where do you think you are going?" The 6 of them shouted one after another. Then they controlled the energy that emerged from their burning primal core and chased after the 3. 6 primal core cultivators of the same level self-destructed. The 3 were scared out of their wits. They ran for their lives. However, they didn't run far before their bodies self-destructed. After 6 loud sounds, the void that had just healed shattered again. Then, the destructive energy instantly spread forward and engulfed the 3 of them. In the turbulent destructive energy, 6 gloomy foundations fell from the sky, one after another. After a while, 2 late-stage primal core cultivators with strong vitality rushed out from the destructive energy. They were the primal core cultivators of the Wang and Lu families. They had swallowed the primal core cultivators of the Wang and Lu families and survived with the help of their vitality. As for the primal core cultivators of the Qin family, because they had swallowed the primal core cultivators before, and because their speed was relatively slow, they would forever remain in the destructive energy. The sound of the explosion reached Zichen's side. After seeing this, the 3 desperate assassins also wanted to follow suit and self-destruct. However, facing 3 powerful people, they naturally couldn't succeed in self-destructing. Gold and silver light flashed around Zichen's body. With a flap of his wings, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already behind the late-stage primal core cultivator. Then he smashed his foundation down. Because his injuries were too severe, this primal core cultivator's reaction was too slow. He couldn't use his foundation to block the attack. His body was directly enveloped by thousands of lightning bolts. Then, as the lightning raged, he exploded. Then, at the same time, the monk and the demonic ape also killed their enemies with one blow. After 2 explosions, 2 corpses fell from the sky. As for Longhu, after killing his enemies, he had already rushed into the forest below. Then he entered the Heavenly Slayer Pavilion's base and started a massacre. The battle was finally over. There were only 5 figures left in the sky. On the ground, there were 11 gloomy foundations. After a while, Longhu flew up from the ground. The injuries of the Wang and Lu family's primal core cultivators had already recovered with the help of the primal core cultivators' treasures. Looking at the foundations on the ground, their faces were filled with disbelief. All of this was like a dream. When they saw the 14 late-stage primal core cultivators, they thought it was over. However, who knew that Zichin had already prepared for this? Haha, my foundation! In the silent world, the monk's excited laughter suddenly rang out. Chapter 666. The battle in the savage land had finally come to an end, and the savage land began to be unified. The sound of something breaking through the air came from the horizon. and the core cultivators arrived one after another. They had suffered heavy losses in the battle against the other 2 stations of the Heavenly Slayer Pavilion. Less than half of the 200 core cultivators were still alive. However, the other 2 stations had disappeared from the world. When they came closer and saw the 11 treasures on the ground, they were stunned. Obviously, the battle here was over. Sir, the other 2 stations have been taken down, and all the assassins inside have been killed. Hei Feng and Wu Lu went up to Ziqin and reported this matter. Previously, there were 2 encampments, and the 2 of them led their men to one each. Take some men and search underground. See if there are any resources, then go back. Ziqin nodded. Yes. The 2 of them retreated and arranged for the others to enter the underground to search. Longhu had already slaughtered all the assassins in the underground. On the ground, Tyrant took away 11 treasures, including the treasures of the Qin family. The core cultivators of the Wang and Lu families didn't show any dissatisfaction with Tyrant's actions. Although those were only 11 foundation artifacts and not 11 elixir weapons, Ziqin's display of strength and his awe-inspiring wisdom made them not dare to show it on their faces, even if they were dissatisfied. However, the 2 of them more or less thought of a way to get the treasures in the next moment. After taking away the 11 treasures, Tyrant began to collect the spiritual rings and energy cores. Those were late-stage cores. Even if they consumed a lot of energy, they still contained extremely pure energy cores. After taking everything, Tyrant's eyes fell on the purple gold gourd on the ground, and his eyes began to shine. You don't have to pick this up. Ziqin's indifferent voice sounded in the air. The gourd lid flew up automatically and covered the mouth of the gourd, perfectly sealing it. Then the purple gold gourd flew up and landed in Ziqin's hand. It's fine if you don't want me to pick it up. I don't care. Tyrant's face was full of resentment. After taking all the treasures, the cultivators flew out from underground and reorganized their teams. When Ziqin returned to Red Cloud City with a group of people, the entire Red Cloud City was boiling with excitement. Obviously, they had won a great victory in the war, and the barbarian lands were beginning to be unified. When the news spread, the entire barbarian lands were boiling with excitement. Tens of thousands of years had passed since the Boundless Sect's destruction, and this region was finally about to be unified. During this period of intense battle, the number of Dan Yuan casualties was very high. Everyone's attention was also highly focused. Now that they had obtained a complete victory, it was naturally time to relax and celebrate. As the host, the Wang family held a grand banquet to thank Ziqin for his help. After a series of fierce battles, everyone's attention was highly focused. It was rare for them to be able to relax today, so they were very happy. The banquet proceeded in a lively atmosphere. Just as the atmosphere reached its peak, Wang Jintian suddenly stood up and suggested that Ziqin get engaged with Wang Xian'er. As soon as he said this, the noisy banquet instantly fell silent. Everyone looked at Ziqin. Engagement. Ziqin was stunned by the sudden scene. Beside Ziqin, Wang Xian's pretty face instantly turned red. She lowered her head and secretly looked at Ziqin from the corner of her eyes. You have known each other for so long, and both of you are in love. We can't possibly oppose and break up the 2 of you. Therefore, we will take advantage of this great victory to fulfill your wish and let the 2 of you be together. Wang Jintian's face was flushed from drinking, and he had a smile on his face. Everyone present was in the Dan Yuan realm. To be able to speak to Ziqin as an elder under such circumstances, Wang Jintian felt very proud. Seeing that the Wang family was in the limelight, the Lu family saw this scene and felt somewhat sour. If the Lu family's adopted daughter, Lin Shui, was present, they could also be so impressive. Ziqin looked at Wang Jintian and then lowered his head to look at Wang Xian'er. The latter was secretly looking at Ziqin, listening to his reply. Ziqin suddenly turned his head. She was a little flustered and quickly lowered her head, her face turning even redder. Qin didn't know how to respond to the sudden mention of engagement. The Wang family's actions caught him off guard. But who knew that Wu Lu, Qin Xing, Qin He, and the rest would start to make a fuss, shouting to get together. Aren't they making trouble? Qin thought to himself. Ha! Wang Jintian laughed loudly. Qin, you have been hesitating for so long. Don't tell me you don't like my Xiener? The strongest Dan Yuan expert of the Wang family asked with a smile. Indeed, as soon as he said this, everyone who was making a fuss shut up. Qin also clearly felt that Wang Xian'er's expression had turned gloomy. No, it's not that, Qin hurriedly explained. To be able to be together with Xian'er is a blessing that I have accumulated over several lifetimes. It's just that Senior suddenly brought it up. Qin was a little caught off guard. Oh, no, I mean a little excited. Oh, that means you agree. Wang Jintian smiled. This was originally what I wanted, but I didn't say it out loud because I was afraid Senior wouldn't agree. Now that Senior has spoken, this Junior will naturally agree. Qin was indeed a little excited, and his voice was trembling as he spoke. Haha, then why are you still calling me Senior? Wang Jintian's proud laughter made many Dan Yuan experts of the Lu and Qin families feel uncomfortable. All of them were secretly cursing the other party as an old fox. Obviously, they knew what Wang Jintian was thinking. Father-in-law, father-in-law, Qin greets father-in-law. Qin changed the way he addressed Wang Jintian. As the leader of a group of forces, his status was lower by a level. No, it was Wang Jintian's status that was higher by a level. Along with this, the Wang family experts were also filled with pride. At the side, Wang Xian'er was so embarrassed that she didn't raise her head, but her blushing face was filled with happiness. Wang Zhentian had been standing all along, so when he heard the words father-in-law, although his expression became even more proud, he didn't sit down immediately. Instead, he looked at Qin with a smile. Shameless old fox. Seeing this scene, the Dan Yuan experts of the Lu and Qin families cursed again with disdain in their hearts. Obviously, Wang Jintian, who was smiling but didn't sit down, had other intentions. Betrothal gifts were required for an engagement, and this guy was obviously waiting for Qin to give him a betrothal gift. The group of Dan Yuan experts secretly thought that Qin better be slow to react and not understand this intention. They would make Wang Jintian stand awkwardly, and then they would make fun of him in private after the event. Wang Jintian didn't sit down after calling him father-in-law, and his smiling face clearly said, "You agreed to the engagement, so where's the betrothal gift?" How could Qin not understand such a direct meaning? Betrothal gifts are required for an engagement. Sir, Miss Xian is going to be the wife of our heavenly barbarian pavilion's pavilion leader in the future. The betrothal gift can't be weak. Qin had already understood, but who knew that the Dan Yuan experts on his side would also join in the commotion. The one who spoke was Wu Lu, followed by Wild Wolf, Heifeng, and the rest. The betrothal gift given by our heavenly barbarian pavilion's pavilion leader will naturally not be weak. Miss Xian is as beautiful as a fairy. If the betrothal gift is weak, not only will it be tacky, it will also seem insincere. Looking at the crowd, Qin was speechless. He thought to himself, I'm just getting engaged, okay? It's not the time to get married. Seeing that Qin's Dan Yuan was so tactful, Wang Jintian's bright smile became even brighter. Hee, cough up blood, cough up blood. The monk at the side laughed secretly and then joined in the commotion. He said seriously, Miss Xian and Qin are true friends. Now that they are engaged, if the betrothal gift is lower than the foundation, it will be an insult to Xian'er's status. It's best not to take it out. That's right. Don't get engaged if you don't take out the foundation. Even the stingy monk spoke. The other Dan Yuan experts, who were not stingy, naturally laughed and joined in the commotion. Of course, of course. In the midst of the commotion, Chen could only nod, wondering if these people were hired by the Wang clan. A brilliant light appeared, and a foundation appeared in Chen's hand. It was shining brightly, and then he picked it up respectfully, saying, "Father-in-law, this is the betrothal gift for the engagement. I hope you will accept it." "Ha! Using the foundation as a betrothal gift is indeed generous. Since you care so much about I'm relieved." Wang Jintian laughed. Under the satisfied expressions of the Wang clan's Danyuan experts, he kept the foundation. Chen nodded, saying, that's right. But who knew that after keeping the foundation, Wang Jintian changed the topic, saying, "Okay, not bad. I'll get someone to call your mother-in-law here. You can meet her." As soon as this was said, it attracted many disdainful looks. The Danyuan experts of the Lu and Qin clans were even more ashamed of Wang Jintian's shamelessness. At this banquet, there was only a group of Danyuan experts, Chen's flying friends, and only Wang Xian, a woman. Even the wife of the Wang clan's head was not included. Even though Chen had led the group to conquer the barbarian land and had seen many big scenes, his forehead was still sweating at this moment. He said, "I dare not trouble mother-in-law to come here personally. After the banquet, Xian and I will pay her a visit personally." "That won't do. Men, call the wife here." Wang Jintian waved his hand, insisting. Hearing this, Chen hurriedly said, "There's really no need. Just bring the betrothal gift to mother-in-law." Chen flipped his hand, and another foundation appeared. He then passed it to Wang Jintian. "Ha! Chen, you are indeed sincere. But I'll take care of this for you." Wang Jintian laughed, kept the second foundation, and sat down directly. Wang Jintian sat down, and so did Chen. He finally heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Jintian gave away 2 foundations just for an engagement. If he married another, wouldn't it be even more frightening? After the engagement, the banquet continued. The faces of the Wang clan members were obviously glowing, and they ignored the envious looks of the Qin and Lu clans. Since the goal was achieved, this banquet was naturally happy. As for Wang Jintian, Chen's father-in-law, it was inevitable that he would drink a few more cups amidst the congratulations. The atmosphere was more lively. "Thank you." Under the table, Wang Xian held Chen's left hand with her right hand and transmitted her voice to Chen. From Xian's transmission, Chen could clearly feel her current feelings. There was excitement, agitation, gratitude, and nervousness. Chapter 667. The banquet ended in a lively atmosphere. Dan Yuan, who did not use his mana, did not have a high tolerance for alcohol. Many people were already lying under the table at the end of the banquet. With envy in their hearts, the Qin and Lu clans naturally congratulated Wang Jintian a few more times. Therefore, he was the first to collapse. However, he only collapsed after receiving 2 treasures. It was worth it. Chen did not have a high tolerance for alcohol, but he did not drink too much. He only watched with Xian, as everyone drank. After the banquet ended, he still remained sober. Today's engagement was a little sudden, but since he had already agreed, he naturally had to do it well. He then called Qin Xing and Qin He, as well as the current head of the Qin clan, Dan Yuan. Chen told the 3 of them that he hoped they could concoct a batch of elixirs that could preserve one's youth. Preserve one's youth. Chen nodded. Yes, the effect must be good and the speed must be fast. It would be best to concoct it overnight. As for the materials, you can choose whatever you want. Chen waved his hand. In a flash of light, many materials appeared in front of him. There was a dazzling ancient herb king, a spiritual herb king that was tens of thousands of years old, and a lot of ancient beast blood essence. What Chen took out was naturally good stuff. The eyes of the head of the Qin clan lit up. After seeing many of the materials, he exclaimed in surprise. Since he had met his father-in-law today, he naturally had to meet his mother-in-law tomorrow. This was also considered an official meeting. According to Zi Chen's instructions, the three of them chose the best materials and then went to concoct elixirs overnight. It was not difficult to concoct elixirs that could preserve one's youth. If they were tired, they could complete it in one night. The next morning, before Wang Xian arrived, Qin Xing handed a jade bottle to Zichen, after which Wang Xian brought Zichen to see her mother. This seemingly graceful and luxurious mother-in-law was clearly much better than Wang Jintian. After Zichen arrived, she personally poured tea for Zichen and inquired about his well-being. Her voice was very gentle and very pleasant to hear. Moreover, after seeing Zichen take out a jade bottle and say that it was a gift, she was not as happy as Wang Jintian. Instead, she said that it was enough to just take a look, there was no need to take gift. Mother, just accept it. This is a token of appreciation from Zichen. It can preserve one's youthful appearance and preserve one's beauty forever. Wang Xian tugged at her mother's arm and acted coquettishly. You little brat, how dare you make fun of me? She tapped Wang Xian's forehead with her finger. Now that he was meeting the parents, the atmosphere was clearly much more cheerful. Furthermore, they had specially asked Zichen to stay for lunch. Xian mother had personally cooked the meal, and Zichen was somewhat flattered. Moreover, from this meal, Zichen tasted warmth. It was the warmth that only a mother could give him. He only stayed here for half a day before returning to his residence. There were still matters for Zichen to deal with in the land of savages. Now that the war had ended, he had to return as soon as possible. However, before that, the four of them had to meet to discuss the construction of this region. The leaders of the four forces gathered once again. The forces in the land of chaos are in the process of being established. I have to return as soon as possible. As for this region, I will leave it for you to build. However, I want to reserve a spot for the establishment of a sect. If there's a chance, I will rebuild the Wuji sect. Zichen went straight to the point. 80% of the credit for successfully conquering this region was due to Zichen's contribution. With such a great contribution, it wasn't too much to ask for a spot to rebuild a sect in the future. The three of them didn't even need to discuss it. They all nodded to express that they had no problem with it. They even said that they could provide a certain degree of assistance when the time came. Zichen nodded. This matter was considered to be settled. Next was the issue of the foundation. The lightning hammer that Zichen used previously was borrowed from the Liu family. Now that the war was over and Zichen was about to leave, it was naturally time to return it. In the last battle, the strongest core cultivator of the Qin clan had died in the explosion. However, after his death, the monk had kept his trump card, which was now in Zichen's spirit ring. This trump card belonged to the Qin clan, so they had to return it no matter what. This is the foundation of the Qin family. I'm returning it to you now. Zichen took out the foundation that belonged to the Qin family. Dan Yuan received the foundation with a face full of excitement and repeatedly expressed his gratitude. This belongs to the Qin family. It's only right that we return it to its rightful owner. Zichen originally had 11 foundation pieces. 2 of them had been given away as betrothal gifts yesterday. Including this one, he was left with 8 foundation pieces. The thunder hammer is compatible with the energy in my body. It can bring out several times the power of my body. I've decided to keep this hammer. I'm willing to exchange it for another item. What do you think, Senior? Zichen looked at the Liu clan's Dan essence. That's not a problem. Dan Yuan said, Thank you very much, Senior. Zichen expressed his gratitude. Then he took out another trump card in exchange for the lightning hammer. In this battle, the 3 of you and your families have contributed greatly. The Dan Yuan of the family has suffered heavy losses. Naturally, Zichen can't get all the benefits alone. These 3 foundation pieces will be given to each of you. Zichen took out another 3 foundation pieces. This scene surprised the 3. After all, the one who really contributed to conquering this place was Zichen. Moreover, the materials for the tribulation avoidance pill were also provided by him. He didn't want anything for conquering this place. Even if he took the reward alone, they wouldn't have any complaints. The 3 declined, saying that they had enough foundation to protect themselves. However, under Zichen's insistence, they could only accept it. After discussing the foundation and territory, it was time to discuss the proper business. Zichen didn't forget the ultimate purpose of his return. How are the Liu and Qin families' losses? Can they still refine pill weapons and pills? Zichen asked. This was a matter of expertise. The 2 patted their chests and said that there was no problem. They also said that although their families had lost many powerhouses, their forging skills were not lost. Not to mention pill weapons, they could still refine foundation pieces. Dan Yuan of the Liu family said that they could refine foundation pieces. Dan Yuan of the Qin family was not to be outdone. He said that if there were enough materials, they could still refine treasure pills. You can refine foundation pieces and treasure pills. Zichen's eyes lit up when he heard this. Of course, as long as there are materials. The 2 vowed. Of course I have the materials, but how long will it take to refine a foundation piece? Zichen asked. Well, a foundation piece will take at least a year. Dan Yuan of the Liu family pondered for a moment and said, A year. Zichen frowned. That's the most conservative estimate. Refining foundation is different from refining pills. Of course, we have to seek the best of the best, said Dan Yuan of the Liu family. What's wrong with refining pills? It takes a long time to refine a batch of extremely effective treasure pills, said Dan Yuan of the Qin family. He didn't want to be looked down upon. Let's not worry about foundation pieces for now. Let's refine some pill weapons first. I have a lot of materials here. I'll give you some when the time comes. As for the reward, Zichen pondered. Refining a pill weapon for you, Zichen. Could it be that our Liu clan wants a reward? That would be too ungrateful. We don't want a reward, said the Liu clan's Dan Yuan. Zichen shook his head. We'll be cooperating for a long time in the future. Moreover, we won't be refining just 1 or 2 pills. This is a long-term deal, so there must be a reward. Zichen pondered for a moment before he said, How about this? Rebuilding this area will require a large amount of resources. So I'll give all of you the loot we've plundered this time. You can refine a pill weapon, and besides the materials, I'll pay you an additional 5,000 high-grade origin stones for each pill weapon. What? 5,000 high-grade origin stones? Hearing this number, the Liu family's Dan Yuan's eyes widened in disbelief. 1 high-grade primordial stone could be exchanged for 10,000 low-grade primordial stones. Zichen's reward was equivalent to 50 million low-grade primordial stones for a single Dan weapon. In the past, this amount of primordial stones was enough to buy a Dan weapon. Zichen nodded and said seriously, Yes, it is 5,000 primordial stones, but the materials I gave are all good materials, so I want high-quality Dan weapons, not the ordinary ones that are being sold out now. Hearing this, Liu clan's Dan Yuan immediately guaranteed, Zichen, don't worry about this. The elixir weapons refined by our hands with good materials will definitely be stronger than the Wolf Tooth Club, second only to our foundation. As for the ordinary elixir weapons you mentioned, what kind of trash were they refined? All the good materials were wasted by them. I'm not bragging, but if we refine these elixir weapons again, the quality will at least double. Zichen thought for a moment and said, If the quality is better than the mace, then I'll give you 20,000 high-grade origin stones per pill weapon. Really? The Liu family's Dan Yuan stared. If it's really that powerful, then the minimum is 20,000. Zichen said seriously, Okay, there won't be a problem. The The Lu family's Dan Yuan promised, with a proud face. Then Zichen looked at the Qin family's Dan Yuan and said, "If you successfully refine a treasure pill, I'll give you an extra 100,000 high-grade origin stones. If you refine another treasure pill within the consumption period, I'll give you an extra 500,000. As soon as Zichen said this, the Lu family's Dan Yuan's proud expression instantly disappeared. From Zichen's reward, it could be seen that the profit was higher than that of weapons and pills. Okay, no problem. Hearing such amazing rewards, the Qin family's Dan Yuan was extremely excited. This time, the Lu family and the Qin family had negotiated a long-term deal with Zichen. It could be foreseen that in the future, the two families would rely on the cooperation with Zichen to gain endless resources and rise with these resources. As for the Lu family's Dan Yuan, they could only look at it. They didn't know how to refine pills, so they could only sit and wait. After that, Zichen called Wu Lu over and instructed her to bring some people to appraise all the spoils they had obtained this time as quickly as possible. Wu Lu nodded, indicating that it would be done soon. Wu Lu needed about a day to count the gains, so Zichen decided to leave on the second day. Who knew that at this time, Xian would come to him? Of course, she didn't come for the engagement, but because she sensed the heavenly thunder tribulation and needed to pass it. Is she going to pass the tribulation? Zichen was overjoyed when he heard this. Previously, he was the one who insisted on not letting Xian consume the tribulation evasion pill because he felt that consuming the tribulation evasion pill would affect her potential. Wang Xian nodded, indicating that she could pass the tribulation at any time. Okay, I'll find a safe place for you now. Zichen soon brought Monk and the others, and then called 10 Dan Yuan experts to leave Yunxia City with him to find a suitable place to pass the tribulation. Chapter 668. Wang Xian was about to undergo her tribulation. Zichen brought his men out to find a place to undergo the tribulation. After finding a spacious area, he ordered his men to seal off the area. This place was 1,000 miles away from Yunxia City. After knowing that Xian was about to undergo her tribulation, the Wang family also sent several inner core experts to protect this area. Xian parents also came, and they looked very nervous. Under the blue sky, Wang Xian stood in the air. Her white robe fluttered without wind, and her long black hair fell like a waterfall. She held a long sword in her hand that shone with cold light. A terrifying aura emerged from the long sword. This long sword was a foundation that Zichen specially gave to Xian for her to undergo her tribulation. With the foundation and the protection of more than 10 inner core experts, Wang Xian could be considered the first person to undergo the tribulation in the last 10,000 years. This is the most terrifying tribulation. Xian will be fine, right? Wang Xian's mother's face was as white as snow. She looked very nervous. Xian has the foundation. She should be fine. Wang Xintian's palms were already sweating. Don't worry, Xian has made ample preparations. She has brought 2 ancient medicine kings with her. Even if she consumes 1 ancient medicine leaf every time she blocks a bolt of lightning, she will be able to last until the end of the tribulation. Zichen's confident voice came from behind them. Hearing this, the two turned around and nodded. Their expressions looked better. It was obvious that Zichen's words were more convincing. Silver light flashed in the sky as the heavenly thunder might swept across the area. The dazzling silver light pierced through the sky as the heavenly thunder fell from the sky, heading straight for Wang Xian. In the air, Wang Xian let out a shout. Her body shone brightly as she went against the sky. Holding the foundation that contained a terrifying aura, she slashed at the first heavenly thunder. A rainbow light flashed past, and the light on the foundation was extinguished. The powerful heavenly thunder might was destroyed in one strike, turning into pure heavenly thunder energy. Wang Xian, Er's heavenly thunder tribulation began at this moment. Seeing Xian destroy the lightning with ease, the Wang family members heaved a sigh of relief. This wasn't the first time that Zichen had seen others undergoing tribulation. Regardless of whether it was Wang Qiong or Tyrant, their lightning tribulations were very special after the baptism. They were far stronger than the average Jintian cultivators. However, the two of them didn't rely on their foundations to achieve their breakthroughs. Wang Xianer, who had her own foundations, naturally had an easy time breaking through. Looking up, Wang Xian was like a fairy leaping around the lightning. While she was destroying the lightning tribulations, she was also using the power of the lightning tribulations to temper her body. As the bolts of heavenly lightning dissipated, Wang Xian Er's heavenly tribulations went smoothly. When the last bolt of heavenly lightning dissipated, a pure aura of Dan essence emerged from Wang Xian Er's body. The Wang clan now had another Dan origin stage expert. Mother Wang Xian was talented in controlling her strength. By the time she retracted her foundation and flew to Wang Jintian's side, the unstable Dan essence in her body had already been retracted. This time, Wang Xian was radiant and beautiful. Zichen was beside her and nodded at her with a smile on his face. Now that the breakthrough was over, it was time for everyone to return. My lord, the value of the previous harvest has been estimated. When Zichen returned, Wu Lu had been waiting outside his residence for a long time. Oh, how much is it? The total value is about 5 million upper-grade origin stones, Wu Lu said. After opening the door, Zichen gestured for Wu Lu to enter and said, 5 million upper-grade origin stones. Give the Qin clan and the Lu clan 2 million each. Leave the remaining 1 million to me. Wu Lu nodded but did not leave immediately. There's something. Zichen looked at Wu Lu, who was hesitant to speak. There's something that I don't understand. Wu Lu hesitated. What is it? Just say it. Although this is a barbarian land, and it's true that resources are scarce, the great clans have accumulated thousands of years of wealth. It's definitely more than this. I suspect that there are other treasures, Wu Lu said. Zichen smiled and said, Are you trying to say that the people from the other clans did not die out? Instead, they knew that danger was coming and arranged for the direct descendants of their clans to move with the resources in advance? My lord is wise. Wu Lu patted the horse and asked, Previously, when we went to annihilate those major forces, they only defended and did not flee. This was already very suspicious. The possibility of them transferring their direct descendants to leave behind cannon fodder is very high. My lord, should we inform the 3 forces of this matter so that they can be prepared and make early plans? Zichen shook his head and said, There's no need. As the local clans, they're naturally very familiar with the other clans. Moreover, this matter involves their own interests, so they must be more sensitive than us. There's no need for you and me to worry about this. Let's get down to business. Wu Lu nodded and left. Everything was as Zichen said. As the local clans, the 3 clans had long had a premonition. At this time, the 3 of them were secretly discussing how to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future troubles. On the same day, Wu Lu gave the resources worth 4 million upper-grade origin stones to the Lu and Qin clans. After that, Zichen had people deliver a lot of materials for refining pill weapons and treasure pills. In Yunxia City, a man and a woman were walking side by side, surrounded by a group of fanatical and worshipful cultivators. When are we leaving? Wang Xian suddenly asked. Zichen thought for a while and said, The day after tomorrow. You can go and accompany your parents tomorrow. Wang Xian nodded. Obviously, she was going to leave with Zichen this time. Oh, right, this is for you. Zichen took out a spiritual ring. Wang Xian took the spiritual ring doubtfully. After injecting her origin energy, she saw the many resources in the spiritual ring. She instantly understood Zi Chen's intention and was touched. Thank you. Wang Xian kept the spiritual ring. She did not refuse because the Wang clan needed resources to rebuild and rise. This is the betrothal gift for the engagement. Zi Chen joked. Hearing about the betrothal gift, Wang Xian's face instantly turned red. The two of them were famous figures in the land of savages. No matter where they went, there would be fanatical gazes directed at them, provoking cries of surprise. Thus, their path forward was quickly blocked by enthusiastic cultivators, and thus, the two of them announced the end of their world. 2 days later, Zi Chen gathered a group of Elixir Realm cultivators and prepared to return to the savage land. Qin Xing and Qin He were not in the group. The two of them planned to take the first batch of treasure pills before returning. Miao Kong was not in the group either. He said that he wanted to look for his clan members in this area. Other than the three of them, Monk, Devil Ape, and the rest were all present. As for the more than 200 Elixir Realm cultivators from the savage land, only 60 of them were left after self-detonating and dying. Before leaving, Zi Chen looked at Wu Lu and asked, "Have you distributed the rewards?" All the energy Elixir Realm cultivators and wealth in the spiritual ring have been distributed after unification. Wu Lu replied loudly. Zi Chen nodded and said, "Okay, let's go." Zi Chen did not want all the rewards from killing the Elixir Realm cultivators in the savage land. Instead, he distributed them to the surviving Elixir Realm cultivators as a special benefit. The Elixir Realm cultivators of the three forces all came out to send them off. The three leaders exchanged some pleasantries with Zi Chen. Wang Xian's mother's eyes were red and full of reluctance. Beside her, Wang Jintian was comforting her in a low voice. Wang Xian turned around and waved her hand. Then she followed Zi Chen and left. Sigh, a grown woman can't be kept at home. Wang Jintian sighed. Zi Chen's group left just like that. The savage land also began to be rebuilt and cleaned up. Finally, they were going back. The group of Dan Realm experts seemed very relaxed. They quickly arrived at the teleportation array leading to the Bedlam lands. After injecting their primordial stones, the teleportation array lit up. One by one, they stepped into the array and disappeared. After arriving at the savage land, Zi Chen went straight to the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion. Ever since most of the primordial core cultivators had been transferred to the savage land, the region where the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion was located had been in a passive state. Although it was impossible for a large-scale primordial core battle to occur with the old turtle guarding the place, small-scale battles in the air occurred frequently. Moreover, after the Elixir Realm cultivators were transferred, the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion was no longer able to start any battles. For more than 2 months, they had been in a defensive state. Moreover, a mineral vein 500,000 miles away had been captured and occupied by the enemy forces. This was a large-scale mineral vein discovered by the spirit-devouring rats. The resources were very precious. If any of them were captured, it would be a loss to the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion. If Wang Qiong personally led his men, they would naturally be able to capture it. However, if they succeeded, there would be no one guarding it. Now he was in urgent need of Elixir Realm cultivators, especially Elixir Realm cultivators. Soon, someone came to report that the second mineral vein 500,000 miles away had also been attacked and was about to be lost. That was the mineral vein that the demon ape had been guarding. As for the mineral vein that was captured, it was the one that Monk had been guarding. "Sir, there's news from the front. They want us to quickly send Elixir Realm cultivators as reinforcements." Hearing his subordinates report, Wang Qiong smiled bitterly. "Send more Elixir Realm cultivators? How can we send more Elixir Realm cultivators now?" "All right, I got it. You may leave." Wang Qiong waved his hand. Recently, he had been troubled by many things. Do I have to call Wang Shan over? However, the construction of the station is obviously more important. Wang Qiong shook his head. There was obvious anger on his face. The major forces have already suffered. They don't dare to attack the heavenly barbarian pavilion. Instead, you guys are like flies. In the previous battle, the Zephyr Realm cultivators sent by the major forces were almost completely massacred. For the past 2 months, they did not launch any attacks. However, the insignificant forces that were originally located 1,000,000 miles away from this area had formed some kind of alliance and started attacking the resource mineral veins of the heavenly barbarian pavilion. Just as Wang Qiong was wondering where to find Elixir Realm cultivators to send as reinforcements, he suddenly heard exclamations from outside. Sir Zichen, Pavilion Master, the Pavilion Master is back. The exclamations grew louder. Wang Qiong heard them clearly. It can't be an illusion, right? Wang Qiong was suspicious. However, soon a familiar voice came from outside. Is Wang Qiong inside? Hearing Zichen's voice, Wang Qiong quickly walked out. Then he saw a group of familiar faces. Zichen, Xian Er, Monk, the demon ape, Longhu, and so on. The super powerful forces that he had always wanted had all appeared. Chapter 669. There is indeed trouble, but since all of you are back, the trouble is no longer trouble. Wang Qiong's face was glowing. Oh, could it be that those big powers still have the ability to fly and sent an army to cause trouble again? Zichen was very surprised. Wang Qiong shook his head. It's not a big power, but some of the small powers around us. I don't know if they have guessed that our main forces have all left, but they formed an alliance. After I took away the Dan essences, they kept attacking our resource veins. They have already lost 1 vein. It was the 6th vein, the one that Monk was guarding. Zichen nodded his head upon hearing this. He did not show any extreme reaction on his face. He had already expected to lose the mineral vein when he returned. However, in his expectations, it should have been taken by a great power and not these insignificant people around him. Those insignificant things still dare to find trouble with our heavenly barbarian pavilion. I think they must be tired of living. I'll bring people to take back the mineral vein right now. The monk shouted with a furious expression. After continuous battles, he no longer looked like a monk. Instead, he looked more like a bandit who did not drink at all. Everyone was in a tense state during the previous battles, and we did not relax much before returning. Let everyone rest for today, and we will move out tomorrow. As they spoke, the group walked to the living room. Wu Lu and Hei Feng followed Zichen. After returning to the living room and taking a seat, Wang Qiong asked impatiently, "How is the savage land?" He had already heard about the chaos in the savage land from the devil ape. He also knew that the Heavenly Kill Alliance had invaded the savage land. He was worried, which was why he sent so many Dan essences there. In his estimation, this battle would last at least half a year or even a year. Perhaps Zichen would come back halfway to recruit more people. However, it had only been slightly more than 2 months, and Zichen had already returned with his people. Other than the Qin, Lu, and Wang families, there are no other big powers in the savage land. In 2 months, we conquered the entire savage land and unified it. Zichen's voice was filled with pride. Many years later, this would be a glorious period of history. Zichen and his group were also epic figures who had created a glorious history. Such a battle record was indeed worthy of pride. That's great! After hearing the whole story, Wang Qiong's face lit up with excitement. They're finally united. This way, there's hope for the barbarian lands to rise up. How's the construction of the encampment going? Zichen asked. LV Peng's sealing of the spiritual veins is nearing completion. With Old Mo's help, he has also successfully sealed those few large main veins. I estimate that it will take a few more days for it to be completely completed. As for those areas that need to be rebuilt, they are almost done. Now, all that is left is to wait for construction. Wang Qiong briefly explained the situation of the encampment and the current situation of the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion. In the battle in the Barbarian lands, we lost a lot of Jindan essence. It's not easy for us to expand our forces now. As for the resource mines that we lost, the monk and the devil ape will take them down and guard them. Zichen looked at everyone and said, "Everyone rest for today. Tomorrow morning, monk and the demon ape will set off. As for the rest of you, go back to your original mine and guard it. As for the allied powers, just give them a warning." The next morning, Zichen, Wang Xian, and Wang Qiong headed to the encampment of the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion. Wang Shan was overseeing the encampment. Other than that, there were more than 1,000 Jinkong cultivators who were building the encampment. Currently, they were just repairing the mountain peaks and cutting down the ancient trees. They had yet to truly build the encampment. "Sister, brother-in-law, why are you back?" Wang Shan, who was in the air commanding a group of Jinkong cultivators, felt the energy waves from afar. When he turned his head and saw Zichen, he was surprised. "The matter over there has been settled, so we came over to take a look." The three of them approached. "Settled? How did you settle it?" "Of course, we unified them." Wang Xian explained with a smile. "Unified? What about our Wang family?" Now, there are 3 forces left in the barbarian lands. If we were to compare the 3 forces, the Wang family should be number 1, Zichen said. "Wow! Then wouldn't our Wang family be the overlord force in the barbarian lands?" Wang Shan was obviously excited. Zichen nodded and asked, "Oh right, where's LV Peng?" "He's underground. Now, we have to lock down the main spiritual veins. It's no longer possible to set up the array above," Wang Shan said. The Jinkong cultivators were almost done with the construction of the mountain range that spanned over 100 miles. Next was the construction of the main peak. After the main peak was completed, it would be time to open the pavilions on the 4 peaks beside it with the main and side halls. Chan observed carefully and imagined how the buildings would look like after they were completed. When he imagined the various forces coming to visit, he couldn't help but smile. Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from the ground, and a terrifying energy surged out. It was as if a peerless monster had been born. Under this aura, Zichen clearly felt a sense of danger, and his expression changed. "Don't worry, this should be LV Peng messing up the array again and triggering the energy of the underground spiritual veins," Wang Shan explained. Sure enough, this terrifying energy dissipated as quickly as it came. The other Jinkong cultivators seemed to be used to it. Although the underground spiritual veins have Elder Hiroshi's help, LV Peng is still the main force. Elder Hiroshi intends to teach him the Tao of arrays. This has happened dozens of times. Every time Elder Hiroshi comes up, he says that LV Peng's attainments in arrays have improved a lot. Not long after, another tremor came from underground. The previous energy surged again, and this repeated several times. After the array was completed, Zichen clearly felt that the spiritual energy of the mountain with the main spiritual vein suddenly weakened a lot. This should be a sign that the spiritual vein was successfully sealed. Sure enough, not long after, another loud noise came from underground. LV Peng flew out. At this moment, his hair was disheveled and his clothes were tattered. He looked very miserable. Only his eyes were brighter. After seeing Zichen, his face was filled with joy. "Zichen, you're back." Zichen nodded and then greeted Elder Hiroshi behind LV Peng. He then asked, "How is it here?" "In a few more days, everything will be done. Other than the marked areas, we can start work on the other areas." LV Peng's voice was filled with absolute confidence. "Let's put this matter aside for now. You and Elder Hiroshi will make a trip to the barbaric land," Zichen said. Why are we going to the barbaric land? Oh, right, how is the battle there? Why are you back? LV Peng asked. The battle has ended. I asked you to go there to completely seal the transportation array between the Heavenly Kill Alliance and the Heavenly Kill Pavilion. Zi Chen gave a brief explanation. LV Peng's face was filled with shock. It was unbelievable that they could conquer the barbaric land. This matter is a little urgent. Go back and wash up before leaving. Let the spirit-devouring rats lead the way. Long Hu will be responsible for your safety. Go quickly and come back quickly. After washing up, LV Peng headed to the barbaric land. He carried the Taiji diagram in his arms. Elder Hiroshi was in the middle, and the spirit-devouring rats and Long Hu were escorting him along the way. After inspecting the encampment, Zi Chen and the rest returned. After making some simple arrangements, Zi Chen locked himself in his room. Next, he had to make plans for himself. He had to make preparations for the heavenly lightning tribulation that had a slim chance of survival. After 2 consecutive baptisms and using the blood essence of a true blood ancient beast, the effect of another baptism was not great. Now, if he wanted his perfect body to transform again, apart from raising his realm, he had to transform the blood in his body again. It was naturally unrealistic to raise his realm. The only way was to transform his blood. Apart from the baptism, he had to refine the ancient beast blood essence. This had to be refined bit by bit. He had to use the potential in the ancient beast blood essence to stimulate the potential of his perfect body's blood essence. The requirement for blood essence could not be too high, but it could not be too low either. Therefore, he had to use blood essence of the same level. That was the blood essence of a pure-blooded ancient beast descendant, such as a demonic leopard cub, a wolf cub, a groundhog, or a black rat. Zi Chen took out a drop of glowing ancient beast blood essence and began refining it. Outside the heavenly barbarian pavilion's base, there were 2 mineral veins that belonged to Zi Chen. One had already been occupied, and the other was in danger. At that moment, there were 5 to 6 primordial core cultivators standing in the sky. Behind them was a team of more than 500 people. After several battles, they had beaten the cultivators in the mineral veins to the point that they did not dare appear. If this was an ordinary mineral vein, they would not mind directly collapsing the entire mineral vein. However, it seemed like this mineral vein was very rich in resources. It would be a pity if it collapsed. A bunch of cowards. How dare they claim to have defeated an overlord faction? How dare they call themselves the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion, the 6th overlord faction? With such cowards, I think it's more appropriate to call them the Barbarian Pavilion. It was founded by a bunch of barbarians. It's not an exaggeration to call them the Barbarian Pavilion. The few primordial core cultivators in the lead mocked casually. Moments later, a primordial core cultivator said coldly, "Charge in and kill everything you see." Hee. Before primordial core could finish his cold words, a strange sound came from his mouth. The others turned their heads in puzzlement. However, when they saw primordial core's appearance, their faces were filled with shock. They saw that a sword had pierced through primordial core's throat at some point in time. That was how his voice was blocked. Instantly, they looked behind the sword and saw a cold-looking young man in black clothes. You. Seeing this young man who appeared out of nowhere, the group of primordial core cultivators were shocked. However, in the next moment, the young man's figure disappeared like a phantom. Then, a soft sound came from beside them. The young man who had just disappeared had appeared behind the 2nd primordial core cultivator. His sharp sword pierced through his throat again. After killing 2 primordial core cultivators silently, the other primordial core cultivators were already filled with fear. As for the more than 500 primordial core cultivators behind them, they were even more shocked. The young man did not speak, but the murderous intent on his face became even more intense. The sharp sword light flashed, and the remaining primordial core cultivators fell one after another. After killing the primordial core cultivators, the young man charged towards the group of primordial core cultivators like a black bolt of lightning. Moments later, the young man was the only one left in the sky. At the same time, the monk and the devil ape also arrived at the 6th mineral vein. Then, the two of them rushed towards the mineral vein. Chapter 670. With the devil ape and the monk working together, there was no reason for them to not be able to retrieve the mine. Within a short period of time, the two of them had killed all the outsiders in the mine without mercy. In order to strictly follow Zi Chen's instructions, after retrieving the mine, the devil ape chased after them for more than 500,000 miles. Zi Chen's words were a warning, and the devil ape was also a good warning. An alliance of many factions was killed by the devil ape alone. At the same time, the flying creatures that attacked the other mines also suffered devastating attacks. In less than a day, the alliance was defeated and the crisis was resolved. Regarding Zi Chen's establishment of a faction in the outer region, all the factions in the inner region were paying close attention. However, there was no movement from the Overlord faction. It was obvious that they had acknowledged him. After the flying creatures they sent out were wiped out, they also settled down. It was obvious that the Overlord faction would not interfere. The establishment of the barbarian faction was a foregone conclusion. In the room, Zi Chen's body was emitting a faint golden light. He was refining the ancient beast's blood essence. However, after 2 baptisms, the effect of refining the blood essence was not very obvious. However, in order to have an extra chance of forming the core, Zi Chen could only continue refining. After a few days, LV Peng successfully sealed the transportation formation of the Heavenly Kill Alliance to the barbarian lands. After returning, he continued to seal the spirit vein. With the crisis resolved, Wang Qiong and the rest placed their attention on the construction of the base. After roughly modifying the terrain within a few dozen miles, it was time to build. The first thing to be built was naturally the main hall on the main peak. That was the foundation of the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion, and it was also on the tallest and largest peak. According to Zi Chen's instructions before he went into seclusion, the main hall had to have 9 floors, representing the extremes of heaven. Naturally, it was easier for cultivators to build the main hall than mortals. With their supernatural powers, they could move mountains and fill seas. With the help of their supernatural powers, everything was simple and direct. Even transporting materials to the top of the mountain could be done easily with their supernatural powers. For the construction of the main hall, Wang Qiong used a special kind of black stone. This black stone was a refining material and was harder than ordinary steel. After a large amount of it was transported from the flying creatures, the task of building the main hall began. This time, Wang Qiong summoned even more Yukongs and Dan essences, with everyone working together. Even if it was a 9-floored palace, it wouldn't take long to complete the construction. In the original plan, there was only one main hall on the main peak, and in front of the main hall was a huge square. At this time, the square was covered with a layer of small round stones, and LV Peng was adding an array formation to the square. In addition, there was also a large-scale array on the main peak. This array was directly connected to the main spirit vein underground. Not only was it sturdy enough, but it could also be used to control the spirit vein to launch an attack when necessary. Beside the main peak, there were 4 smaller peaks. There were 7 levels of halls built here, and these halls were mainly divided into the Contribution Hall, the Treasure Hall, the Martial Technique Hall, and the Inheritance Hall. These things were the foundation for the continuation of a force. They were close to the main peak, and after they were built, there would be many experts guarding them. As for the other peaks and surroundings, 6, 5, and 3-floored pavilions were to be built. These were the places where the experts of the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion lived, and cultivated. The Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion covered an area of 50 kilometers, and there were nearly 100 peaks in the middle. If they were all filled with pavilions, it would take at least 10 years. Zichen naturally couldn't wait for 10 years to open the pavilion. At present, the people of the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion didn't need that much space, and Zichen didn't have 10 years to wait. According to Zichen's original plan, the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion could be officially established after the main peak and the surrounding peaks were built. Zichen's seclusion lasted for an entire month, but during this month, the progress of his perfect body was minimal. In the last half a month, refining the blood essence was useless. Therefore, Zichen chose to come out of seclusion. After coming out of seclusion, Zichen went straight to the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion's encampment. Wang Qiong, Wang Xian, and the rest were all there. A group of Yukongs was building the main hall in full swing. For levels of the 9-floored main peaks hall had already been built. Everyone was surprised to see Zichen arrive. Zichen, you're out of seclusion. Wang Xian went forward with a look of joy on her face. Zichen nodded and looked at the main peak. At that moment, for levels of the 9-floored main hall had already been built. LV Peng was setting up arrays layer by layer. On the 4 peaks beside the main peak, the 7-floored main hall was also being built. According to this progress, how long will it take to complete it? Zichen looked at the bustling Yukongs in front of him. According to the current situation, it should take another 3 months, said Wang Qiong. After pondering for a moment, Zichen said, 3 months? All right, send out invitations and invite those large factions to attend our pavilion opening ceremony in half a year. Isn't it too rushed to open the pavilion in half a year? After it's completed, the interior still needs to be decorated. Wang Qiong was stunned. The others also looked at Zichen. Zichen shook his head and said, now that the crisis has come to an end, send more people over to help. I don't have much time left. I can suppress my cultivation level for another half a year at most. After that, I have to go back and break through. With 2 types of extreme energy, it was very difficult for Zichen to break through to the Dan Essence realm. Moreover, they already knew that Zichen would have to go back to the barbarian lands to break through. Half a year? Wang Xian, Ari's expression was a little gloomy. Since that's the case, I'll send more people over and get them to speed up. Wang Qiong looked at Zichen again. If we send out the invitations now, should we invite the original 8 factions? Invite all the factions in Chaos City. There are no eternal enemies, only eternal benefits, said Zichen. Benefits? How can we have any benefits with them? Wang Qiong asked doubtfully. After the pavilion opens, I plan to build a market in the outer region and then an auction hall. Build a market and an auction hall. What are we going to auction? The few of them were surprised. We have a lot of resources that we can auction. Ancient beasts, liquefied elemental essence, alchemy weapons, defensive alchemy weapons, and even our foundation. The Liu family's forging skills are superb, and their alchemy weapons are at least a few times more powerful than the ones here. Moreover, they have alchemy weapons that are almost as powerful as our foundation. The Qin family's alchemy skills are also far better than here, and with the resources we provide, the quality of the pills they refine is also higher. Naturally, there will be people who want to auction such high-quality items. Moreover, there is no market in such a large outer region, which is a pity. Now that our Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion has been established, we naturally have to make this area more lively, Zichen explained. Wang Qiong's eyes lit up when he heard this. This was a very good suggestion. They had resources that the big factions did not have. Once the auction hall was established, it would naturally attract those big factions. Moreover, the market was within the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion's sphere of influence, so naturally no one would dare to cause trouble. In addition to the high-quality items, this market would soon be filled with people. Perhaps after a few years, this market would be as popular as Chaos City. This was a very good suggestion, and everyone agreed. Write clearly on the invitation that after the pavilion is opened, we will have a competition program and the winner will receive a reward. As for the reward, write that it will be ancient beast essence blood, alchemy weapons, and alchemy pills refined from ancient beasts, Zichen continued. Wang Qiong's eyes lit up when he heard this. They will definitely be interested in the ancient beast series items. Moreover, after seeing 1 or 2 high-quality items, they will definitely be jealous and ask about the origin. After the pavilion is opened, we will hold an auction, and the market will definitely become more popular. At this moment, he could not help but admire Zi Chen's sharp thinking as a businessman. Wang Qiong excitedly went to prepare the invitation. Then he sent Wu Lu and Wild Wolf, 2 mid-stage core cultivators, to deliver the invitation. Among these 2, Wild Wolf was a demonic beast. After refining the sky-devouring wolf's essence blood, his physique and strength had increased greatly. As for Wu Lu, he had a good brain and would not mess things up. After the 2 received the invitation, they rushed to Chaos City without sleeping or resting. After a month, they did not send out the invitation immediately when they arrived in the city. Instead, they spent some vitality stones to get someone to spread the news that the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion had been established, and that Zichen had sent someone to deliver the invitation. Once the news was out, the various forces were in an uproar. Zichen had really established a force, and he had even sent an invitation. However, many forces were disdainful and looked down on this. The news spread quickly. The person sent by Zichen to deliver the invitation actually went straight to the 5 overlord forces. The people from the overlord forces did not put on airs. Instead, they warmly received the person who delivered the invitation. In the end, when they came out, it was the housekeeper who personally sent them to the door. That attitude and that expression were said to be extremely enthusiastic. The attitude of the overlord forces was everything. When Wild Wolf and Wu Lu went to deliver the invitation to the other forces, no matter how dissatisfied they were, they still put on an extremely enthusiastic expression. Even the 8 forces that had deep enmity with Zichen also greeted the 2 of them politely. Although the expressions of the young people in the clan were excessively excited, under the fierce gazes of the elders, they did not dare to act excessively. The establishment of the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion in 5 months. There will be competitions and rewards. This Zichen is becoming more and more like a leader. In the Shangguan family, Shangguan Feixiong looked at the invitation in his hand with a smile on his face. "Father, what are you looking at?" Shangguan Bingxi walked in from outside. Shangguan Feixiong passed the invitation to him. After Shangguan Bingxi saw it, he was obviously surprised. Zichen's force is about to be established. It's called the Heavenly Barbarian Pavilion. "Father, are you going?" This is the force established by Zichen. Moreover, you and I are indebted to Zichen. Naturally, we have to go and support him, Shangguan Feixiong said. Shangguan Bingxi rolled his eyes and said, "That's great. I want to go too." Shangguan Feixiong shook his head. "You should stay at home and cultivate." "No, I want to go and see Zichen's force. You just broke through to the core realm. Your realm is not stable yet. You should stay at home and cultivate to stabilize your realm," Shangguan Feixiong said with a straight face. Shangguan Bingxi naturally did not want to go. He pouted and said, "Didn't the invitation say that there will be rewards for the Ancient Beast series? If I go, I can earn some rewards for the family." Chapter 671. Once the invitation was out, the entire Chaos City was talking about it. The forces that had been dismissive of the invitation were obviously moved after seeing the contents of the invitation. The prize for the competition was the Ancient Beast series. There were elixir weapons, elixirs, and the blood essence of ancient beasts. Because of Zichen, Not many forces in the entire land of chaos had gained anything from the ancient battlefield. Even if they had gained something, it was not much. It was far from what Zichen had gained. They had once attacked Zichen's forces for these things. At this moment, they were no longer looking at the invitation, but the things in Zichen's hands. Furthermore, judging from the Overlord force's ambiguous attitude towards the heavenly barbarian pavilion, they would obviously be going. These forces did not think that they were more important than the Overlord forces. Zichen's rise was inevitable. With a powerhouse who had surpassed the core origin stage, it was only a matter of time before the heavenly barbarian pavilion became the sixth Overlord force. Now that they were willing to send an invitation, they had the intention of resolving their grudges. Naturally, they had a choice. After Zichen caused a series of commotion, the establishment of the heavenly barbarian pavilion shocked everyone once again. The heavenly barbarian pavilion's teleportation formation to the savage land had been completely sealed. The three forces no longer had anything to worry about. The Wang family was in charge of finding the remnants of the other forces and killing them immediately. The Lu family and the Wang family were in charge of producing elixir weapons and elixirs for Zichen. Because of the high profits, the two families deliberately slowed down the speed of their reconstruction. To them, these profits were resources for their future rise. The materials that Zichen gave could be used to refine elixir weapons of 3 grades. The first grade was called Good Grade by the Lu family. Good Grade was an ordinary elixir weapon that had been refined to remove the impurities. In the eyes of the Lu family, this was something that was stronger than ordinary elixir weapons. Furthermore, it did not require much resources. To put it nicely, it was good grade. To put it bluntly, it was still an ordinary elixir. The second grade was fine grade. The quality of this elixir weapon was obviously higher than good grade. During the refinement process, ancient beasts were added into it. However, there were things like groundhogs and black rats. This item was not very special, but with the superb forging skills of the Lu family, it was already a fine grade. There was a wide range of high-quality elixir weapons. Among them, there were also high-quality elixir weapons and low-quality elixir weapons. However, regardless of whether they were high-quality or low-quality elixir weapons, they were obviously much better than good-quality elixir weapons. The last grade was the extreme grade elixir weapon. It had been refined by fusing some precious materials, crystals, and materials from the descendants of ancient beasts. Moreover, with the fusion of ancient beasts, the value of these items was clearly higher than that of high-grade elixir weapons. Moreover, because of the use of good materials, the quality of these weapons surpassed that of the original Wolf Tooth Club. As for the King Ancient Beasts items, Zichen did not keep many of them. Moreover, the Lu family did not abuse them. If these items were refined properly, they could be used as a foundation. They wouldn't be able to refine anything in a short period of time. A few days ago, Zichen sent someone to make it clear that he would use these things in half a year's time. Therefore, the faster the refining, the better, even if the quality was slightly reduced. Apart from the Lu family, the Qin family was not idle either. As an alchemy family, they would not only refine treasure pills. Ancient beast blood essences had different colors and contained different energies. Naturally, their effects would be different. Therefore, what the Qin family wanted to do was to maximize the effects of each type of blood essence. Those with rich life auras would be refined into treasure pills. This way, not only would they be able to produce more, but they would also be able to ensure the speed of refining pills. Apart from that, there were also pills that could stimulate one's potential, or pills that could stimulate one's combat power at a critical moment and increase one's combat power by several times. Of course, the best pills were still treasure pills. Time passed and soon 2 months had passed. With thousands of Zephyr alchemists and dozens of core essence alchemists working day and night, the heavenly barbarian pavilion had begun to take shape. On the main peak, a 9-story hall stood tall. The pitch-black stone emitted a dark light. making the hall even more mysterious. Beside the main peak, there were 4 7-story halls. Although they could not be compared to the majestic 9-story main hall, the 7-story halls were still very imposing. Apart from that, there were also many high-rise pavilions that were built on the other peaks. Everyone has worked hard for the past 2 months. However, there are only 4 months before the pavilion opens. Everyone can't relax. Pass down the order. In the next few months, until the pavilion opens, everyone's remuneration will be doubled. Now, we will start refining some of the facilities in the room and decorating the rooms. Chen stood on the 9-story hall and looked carefully. Heifeng stood respectfully beside him. After Chen finished speaking, Heifeng respectfully left to pass down the order. Since they could refine spirit weapons by Zephyr alchemists, refining some of the facilities in the room was the easiest. As for decorations, it was also the easiest for core essence alchemists. Once the core fire in their bodies was released, it could completely melt gold and stone. After the gold ores were melted and impurities were removed, they stuck tightly to the walls with their transcendence energy. After solidifying, the entire hall looked like it was made of gold. It was golden and dazzling. Letting core essence alchemists and Zephyr alchemists do such a thing was a complete waste of talent. Their control of transcendence energy made each of them an outstanding sculptor and decorator. Under the stimulation of high remuneration, the things that they worked hard to create could be said to be perfect. Chen, come quickly. We're just waiting for you. Wang Xian. Er's voice rang in Chen's mind. All right. Today is the day to test the Great Sect Protection Array. Chen was enlightened when he heard this. He then turned and flew outside. LV Peng and the rest were already standing in the air, overlooking the entire area. Chen hurried over. Let's begin. Let's see how our Great Sect Protection Array is like. LV Peng nodded. The origin energy around him began to surge. He raised his hand and shot out streaks of origin energy, landing on the place where the array was set up. Then he began to form complicated seals. This Great Sect Protection Array uses the 10-directional Nirvana Array. With the support of the underground spiritual veins, it can be used for both defense and offense. The combination of offense and defense can be said to be perfect. Even if an existence beyond the core essence alchemist comes to attack, it will not be able to break through this place. Moreover, once the array is activated, the existence trapped in the array can be killed. Speaking of the array, LV Peng was confident and proud. There were thousands of arrays here. These thousands of arrays were divided into spirit lock, defense, attack, and traction arrays. The entire Great Sect Protection Array was formed by the seamless connection of these thousands of arrays. Under Elder Mo's guidance, these thousands of arrays could be said to be flawless. There were no flaws at all. The last seal in LV Peng's hand fell. The ground within a radius of 100 miles began to light up one after another. The lights lit up and then soared into the sky. There were thousands of lights in total. Then, under the control of LV Peng's hand seals, the entire formation was perfectly integrated. The spirit locking formation began to activate underground. Then, streams of spirit chi spread out from underground. Soon, the area within the formation became a vast expanse of white. Heavens, what a dense spiritual energy! Looking at the hazy, fairy-like surroundings, everyone exclaimed in surprise. Although the array has just been activated, it is connected to the underground spiritual veins. Now that the array is activated, the spirit energy in the spiritual veins will dissipate. Later, the density of spirit energy here will be maintained at this level. The Great Sect Protection Array had been completely activated. LV Peng's hand seal stopped. The array is indeed magical. In the blink of an eye, this place transformed from an extremely suitable place for cultivation into a cultivation treasure. Everyone's eyes were filled with amazement. After the busy Yukong and Dan Yuan noticed the changes in the spirit energy here, they stopped what they were doing and came out to take a look. When they saw the white expanse in the sky that contained extremely dense spirit energy, they were all stunned. There is no problem with the spirit lock array. It can be said to be perfect. After perceiving the array, LV Peng said with satisfaction. The others also nodded. Of course, they knew nothing about it. They were extremely satisfied with the spirit energy. Next, it's time to test the killing array. As LV Peng finished speaking, his hands formed seals again. The white spirit energy in the sky began to surge in the next moment as if it had encountered a gust of wind. Clang! Clang! A loud and clear sonorous sound came from the sky. In the next moment, a dense murderous intent filled the entire world. This murderous intent carried the meaning of extinction, causing everyone who sensed it to tremble. As LV Peng's hand seals appeared, fierce attacks appeared out of thin air one after another. These attacks lit up from one area after another. Obviously, LV Peng was testing the entire array to see if there were any problems. This repeated for a full hour. Only then did LV Peng let out a big sigh of relief. There is no problem with the array. It's just that controlling it is too difficult. It seems that there is a need to build an array formation pavilion to facilitate the control of the entire array. LV Peng wiped the sweat from his forehead. After the experiment was over, the array was closed once again. The white spirit chi that was floating in the air started to flow back into the ground like mist. This was the sign that the spirit vein was retracting its spirit chi after the array was closed. One after the other, the density of the spirit energy here was more than 10 times different. Many cultivators were dumbfounded. In their hearts, they had already made up their minds to perform well and fight to live here. This was because such dense spirit energy was too suitable for cultivation. However, it was clearly impossible for thousands of people to live here. It wasn't that they couldn't live here. Instead, they had to guard the spirit veins. The chances of them staying here were even lower. However, such a large place naturally needed someone to take care of it. Moreover, there had to be guards. Thus, if they worked hard, there would naturally be a chance for them to stay. 2 months before the opening ceremony, the forces in Chaos City had already set off. They were going to participate in the opening ceremony, so naturally they weren't in a hurry. Thus, they set off 2 months in advance. Along the way, they would stop and rest to relax. Back then, Shangguan Bingshi pouted and reminded Shangguan Feixiong. This time, not only did he bring Shangguan Bingshi, but he also brought Shangguan Yu. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.